6:30 p.m. I'll repeat that. Thank you. Sorry. This is meeting number 13, Monday, July 26, 2021, 6:30. Councillor Riley will commence the opening of the meeting to address the public meetings under the Planning Act. So the chair is yours, Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so I don't think you mentioned this yet, so I'll just mention it. And if I'm duplicating, I apologize. But notes to member of the publics, due to efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 and to protect all individuals, the council chambers will not be open to the public to attend council meetings until further notice. Submission of public comments and virtual attendance can be done. Public may submit comments for matters that are on the agenda or request to attend the virtual meeting as an attendees by emailing jshime@westlincoln.ca by 4:30 on July 26, 2021, or any Monday of the meeting, that is. Emails, comments submitted will be considered as public information and read into the public record. The meeting will be recorded and available on the township website within 48 hours of the meeting, and in most situations, it's usually a little bit quicker than that. So moving forward to our first public meeting this evening, we have, just bring up my screen here. So under section 1.1 zoning bylaw amendment by Gyro Estates, 5482 20 Mile Road, file number 1601-010-21. And so I'm just going to move to my other window here. This public meeting is to consider a zoning bylaw amendment application submitted by Gyro Estates. Again, file number 1601-010-21. The Planning Act requires in section 3412 that before passing a zoning bylaw amendment, council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The purpose of this public meeting is to receive comments and answer questions from the public regarding the amendment to the Township of West Lincoln zoning bylaw. We stress that at this point, no decision has been made on this proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and any comments received will be taken into account by council in their consideration. The Planning Act also requires in section 3414 that council advise the public that if a person or public body does not make an oral submission at a public meeting, or make written submissions to the Township of West Lincoln before the bylaw is passed, that person or public body is not entitled to appeal that decision of council to the Township of West Lincoln to the OMB. Sorry, I should say Ontario Municipal Board. So would the Deputy Clerk please advise the method and dates by which notice of the public meeting was given?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Proper notice is given by way of mail and email distribution to all agencies on Friday, July 2nd, 2021. A yellow sign was also posted on the subject property on July 8th, 2021, and a public notice was advertised on the township's website.
Excellent. Thank you, Jessica. Will Planner 1, Megan Burbick, please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment?
Thank you. An application for rezoning was submitted by Upper Canada Consultants on behalf of the owners of the property. The property is currently owned by 6 members of the Gyro family. The applicants are referring to this development as the Gyro Estates. The subject property is municipally known as 5482 20 Mile Road or Regional Road 69. The application for rezoning is required as a condition within each of the 4 consents for lot creation severance applications that were conditionally approved by the Township of West Lincoln's Committee of Adjustment on May 12th, 2021 for the Gyro Estate development. The proposed development design is depicted in the attachments of the report. This rezoning application proposes to rezone 2.1 hectares of land from development to residential low density type 1A or R1A with a site-specific provision to reduce the minimum frontage for the 3 new lots onto Meadow Court to 6.4 meters each. So there'll be 2 lots going on to 20 Mile Road and then 3 lots going on to Meadow Court. And the Meadow Court lots will be having a site-specific provision to reduce their frontage. In addition, this application proposes to rezone the remaining land zoned as development to environmental protection or EP. That is to the rear of the current property. The recommendation report will be prepared by the township staff following the input from the public meeting today and any agency comments. So currently we have had comments from the Niagara region and then the MPCA, our septic inspector, and the public works, and none of those comments have any objections. We have had a comment from the owner of the property to the east of lot 3 that's on Meadow Court, who has comments in relationship to drainage and in relationship to feeling that lot 3 kind of is too close, privacy issues. But in the consent application, we did put in a development agreement that requires a privacy fence be put in to help with those comments at that point. However, I believe he is here tonight to talk about still having concerns related to privacy issues. I also just want to note that the properties that surround this property are also zoned R1A, so that zoning makes sense in relationship to the surrounding properties. The agent for this application is also on tonight, and I believe we'll be doing a presentation.
Excellent, thank you. So actually, because the next I was going to have to go to is the agent or the applicant. So who's the agent? Sorry, speak up.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is Matt Kernahan. I'm the planning manager at Upper Canada Consultants. If you don't mind, I'll just begin with a brief submission to the committee.
Absolutely, thank you.
So thanks very much for the opportunity to be here tonight. I do represent the owners of 5482 20 Mile Road in St. Anne's. I made this application for the zoning bylaw amendment on their behalf, as well as the 4 consent applications that were conditionally approved back in May. I won't take too much of the committee's time this evening with a presentation. I'm just going to make a few points. The first is that I had the opportunity to review report PDS 84/2021 in detail. As is typical of Township of Westlake and Planning Department staff, they've done a great job at completing that report before council. They've done an excellent job, in my view, of analyzing the applications in the context of planning policies and summarizing the purpose of the application. One of the things you'll note is that my client has undertaken considerable study at a considerable expense in order to bring these applications before you this evening. As you will have read in the report, an environmental impact study has been undertaken to assess potential impacts to the creek and wetland and recommend measures for their protection. A hydrogeological assessment was completed to assess soil and groundwater conditions on site and recommend measures to ensure that the private septic systems are designed and located appropriately. An archaeological assessment was also undertaken to search for historical artifacts on site. Of particular interest is a detailed lot grading and storm drainage plan was prepared by the professional engineers here at Upper Canada. This detailed plan has been completed to ensure that all the drainage from the site will effectively be managed on site without any impacts to surrounding properties. As staff has already noted, staff from the town, the MPCA, and the region have all reviewed these studies and provided comments, and they concur with their findings. Planning staff have been diligent to ensure that the recommendation of these studies get implemented. They've assured that they will through applying conditions of consent, including a development agreement that incorporates the recommendation of all these studies. We agree with staff that the approved conditions of approval will ensure that the development will not significantly impact the environment or the surrounding properties. In summary, we appreciate the time and consideration that staff have already put into ensuring that the public's and the township's interests are maintained through the approved condition of consent. The extensive study undertaken on this development has concluded that it can proceed sensitively and without impact to the environment or surrounding properties. Planning staff and review agencies have all reviewed the studies and applications and are thus far supportive of the development. This zoning bylaw amendment is but one of the conditions of approval that my client has embarked on in order to ensure the development proceeds in an orderly fashion and without issue. We appreciate council's consideration of this information report this evening, and we look forward to staff's forthcoming recommendation on the matter. That's all I have for you. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
So we're going to get to the public submissions, and at that point, if there's any questions we would like, you to chime in on, we'll go to you then. So moving forward at this point, I'm going to ask members of the gallery, are there any oral or written submissions from anyone present on the Zoom meeting regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? I'd like to stress that this may be the only public meeting held with respect to the application. Therefore, if any members of the public that are in attendance at the Zoom meeting would like to make a comment and or provide a written comment, they should do so now by using one of the two options. If you're using computer or smartphone, you're going to raise your hand. That control can be found in the Zoom options on your display screen. And if you're called in, which I haven't seen anybody call in yet, but if we have anybody here that has called in, then you're going to hit *9. This will notify staff that you've raised your hand and we'll be able to permit you that way. Once you've been acknowledged to speak, please unmute your microphone. It is important to us, or important that you provide your comments now if you have not done so already in writing or verbally, as LPAT may not consider comments made during any other council and or committee meeting. Also, anyone wishing to speak are required to unmute their microphone, but once they're done, we ask that you remute your microphone again. Prior to speaking, we do ask that you start by stating your name and your address for the record. So I'm going to go to the gallery here. I think I already saw one hand up. So I'm going to allow, I guess it's Alf that's going to come over and speak.
Yes, good evening. I can't see anybody on my screen. Do I need to press participants or how do I see what's being said?
So that's a great question. That's probably going to be a technical thing on your side. When you logged on, you're going to be asked whether or not you want to permit video or audio use. So I don't know if maybe one of those options were not clicked at the time. I don't know if there's anything we can do on our end to help you with video, because that's usually voluntarily done on your end. So if you're not seeing a stop video button or a start video button, if you're on a computer, on the bottom left of my computer, it says stop videos. So if I click the button right here, you'll see my face disappear. If you click it again, you should be able to see, your face should be able to pop up. But I don't know if you're not seeing rest of us. I'm not too sure what that issue may be, but for what it's worth, we can hear you. And if you'd like to just speak freely, then that's, would be just as good than necessarily having to see you.
Yes, I spoke with Jessica and Megan. I've sent them my written request. And basically it's to do with lot number 3. It's far, far too close, way too close from my property line. And I would like the proposed building, I realize it's not carved in stone right now. I would like that property on lot 3 to be moved westwards considerably. There's also another option, which I was hoping to show you on the screen. You could orientate the building on lot 3, similar to lot 4 and lot 5. This would greatly increase the distance from this proposed future building to my property. It's hard to imagine it being any closer to my property than it's actually shown on the drawing. I did mention this at the previous meeting, but I now understand that it has to be a request for a site-specific provision to move that building westwards. That's the basic request. And to leave any bushes or trees as they stand right now intact, so that it kind of helps me with the beauty of my view from my property, and it doesn't impinge on their privacy as well. So it's basically move westwards, the building westward, keep the trees. I was hoping I could discuss how far westward this can be or should be.
So I think you've painted a pretty clear picture of what you like there. You're also welcome after the meeting to reach out to our planning staff if you feel that there's an illustration you'd like to share with them as well. We have it noted here on the record that you're having some technical difficulties, and so by all means, feel free to reach out to staff even afterwards if there's some kind of visual you'd like to share with us. But for the time being, I think I have a pretty clear picture of what your ask is, and staff will see what they can do, if they can do anything at all. So I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add to that before I move on to the next person.
Basically clarify, I have sent the details of this to Megan and Jessica, so they're fully aware of what my request will involve.
Excellent. Okay,
So thank you for considering me.
no problem. Thank you for taking time to speak. So I'm just going to ask if you can just mute your microphone there for us, and then I'll go on to check to see if there's anybody else in the gallery here. So I'll just ask one more time if there's any other members virtually that would like to speak to this item. Again, this might be the only time you get to speak to this. And then if not, well, yeah, maybe we have everything we need to hear. So not seeing any new hands go up, I'm going to go to members of committee. Do any members of committee have any oral written submissions on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? Please note that members of committee must make their comments now, as LPAT may not consider comments made at any other council and or committee meeting. Any members of council wishing to speak are required to unmute their microphone to talk, and then once they're finished, are required to mute their microphone again. So members of committee, is there any questions, concerns, input you'd like to provide here at this time? I see Councillor Gannon and then Councillor Yonker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Knowing where this property is and the fact that the creek is involved, I would have had far more questions, except for the fact that the consultant for the family members has done an excellent job of advising them about some of the studies that need to be done. So having read some of the work and the background work, I'm well aware that my questions have been addressed. And the other thing is that our staff did an exceptional job this time because there were so many things that need to be looked at. I appreciated having the opportunity to look through and see what the section was and what the policies were that applied to that. So I think that prevents me from having several questions that I may otherwise have had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Yonker?
Yeah, I just wanted to put on the record there that I kind of had the same thought when I looked at this as what the gentleman just raised, the privacy issue. And when I looked at this, it's exciting to see this happening. I think it fits the area there beautifully. So I'm definitely in favor of this going forward. It's just in maybe lot 3, depending on grade and everything as well. Obviously, if you flip the weeping bed to the front of the house versus the back, and if that would work, but I'm sure that's something the planning department can work on and stuff like that. So that was just going to be my comment. That yeah, excited to see this. It's just kind of nice to see that metal court gets used a little bit more, and that circle at the end allows this to happen. So just, yeah, so just exciting to see. St. Anne's growing.
Excellent. Thanks, Councillor. So I'll go back around committee one more time. Any
I
other
think I
members?
froze. I'm not sure what happened.
We heard you. There, I muted you there. All right, so any other members of committee have any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. Please be advised that a technical report is being considered by committee this evening and that a recommendation report will be forthcoming to a future committee and or council meeting. Please also be advised that once committee and or council has made a decision with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment, and if approved by council, a notice of their passing will be circulated with an appeal period. If you wish to be notified of council's decision, please ensure that you email our township clerk, Joanne Shime, at jshime@westlincoln.ca. Anyone who is interested in observing council and or committee discussions about a particular bylaw should not solely rely on mailed notices and thus miss the opportunity to attend applicable meetings. It is suggested that you watch the township website for posting of agendas to review items that will be discussed at a council and or committee meeting. The agendas for meetings are posted on the township website after 4 p.m. on Friday prior to the meeting. Additionally, meeting schedules are also noted on the township website for public to view. And if you wish to receive a notice by email, it is suggested that you contact the township clerk to advise of this request and include your email along with your address to your mailing address, that is, and your phone number. So at this point, I'm gonna, with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, I'm gonna conclude it at the hour of 6:49 p.m. And then, okay. I'll give everyone a quick breath there. Bring this up here. We're going to go into our second public meeting here. Let me just bring up the other window real quick. All right. Where are we? All right. So under 1.2 zoning bylaw amendment, temporary garden suite, Richard and Anita Merritt, file number 1601-011-21. This public meeting is to consider a zoning bylaw amendment submitted by Richard and Anita Merritt, Garden Suite, file number 1601-011-21. The Planning Act requires in section 3412 that before passing a zoning bylaw amendment, council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The purpose of this meeting is to receive comments and questions from the public regarding the amendment to the Township of West Lincoln zoning bylaw. We stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and any comments received will be taken into account by council in their consideration. The Planning Act also requires us under section 3414 that council advise the public that if a person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or a written submission to the Township of West Lincoln before the bylaw is passed, that person and public body is not entitled to appeal that decision of council for the Township of West Lincoln to the Ontario Municipal Board. Would the deputy clerk please advise the method and dates by which notice of the public meeting was given?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Proper notice was given by way of mail distribution to all neighboring properties within 120 meters of the subject property on June 30th, 2021. A yellow sign was also posted on the subject property on June 30th, 2021, and public notice was advertised on the township's website.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. And then just take a quick look here because will planner number 2, Madison Etzel, please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment.
So I'm not planner Madison Etzel, but I will present
So I
for
didn't
you.
I didn't actually see you, so I had a note that you were going to be here. And oh, there you are. So my screen's blocked by another window here. And so sorry, my apologies. So Garrett, if you could speak to this, that'd be great.
That's no problem. Thank you, Councillor Riley. An application for a temporary use bylaw has been to permit a garden suite has been submitted by Anita and Richard Merritt for their property located at 9397 20 Road. The application has been submitted to permit a garden suite for a period of 20 years on the subject property. The garden suite is also proposed to be located within the technical front yard of the property that is closer to the road than the main building, being the dwelling, which is not permitted in our zoning bylaw. Garden suites are temporary dwelling units that are designed to be modular in nature and removed from the subject property following the approved time period. Garden suites are also meant to be used for family members and are not intended to be used for profit or gain. In this instance, the garden suite is intended to be used by a relative of the Merritts. The township official plan permits garden suites through temporary use bylaws for periods of up to 10 years with available 3-year extension requests and subject to a number of additional regulations. The Merritts have applied for a 20-year temporary bylaw, which is permitted under the Planning Act, but not currently permitted under the township's official plan. In order to be consistent with the Planning Act and support affordable housing options, planning staff in report PD 81/2021, which is also on tonight's agenda, is seeking authorization to commence the planning process to consider changing the township official plan from 10 years to 20 years for these temporary use garden suites. The Merritts have proposed a modular unit that is within the maximum 100 square meters, and through an on-site meeting with the township septic inspector have determined that it could be serviced through a joint septic system with the main dwelling. If approved at a future committee and council meeting, the applicants would also have to apply for and obtain a development agreement which would regulate water and septic servicing, as well as occupancy and parking, and a $5,000 deposit to ensure that the unit is removed after the approved time period expires. As noted by the deputy clerk, notice was given out to agencies and the public by the proper means. As of this time, no public comments have been received. Comments from the Conservation Authority and the region were submitted. The region, given the proposed location of the unit, has no objection to the application. The Conservation Authority wishes to review the site plan drawing further to the development agreement stage, just to ensure that the unit stays outside of their regulated areas on the property. The applicant is in attendance this evening if there are any questions for her. And at this time, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Garrett. So if the applicant's available or their authorized agent is present to speak, this would be the time to speak to this application. So think I saw, oh, there's Anita there. Anita, are you going to speak to this? Okay, you're welcome to start whenever you're ready.
Okay, Anita Merritt, 939720 Road. Thank you for receiving our application this evening. Our family farm is now in its 4th generation, and it is a century farm, and our family would love to continue the tradition for many more generations to come. Our 2 sons, Alex and Benson, are very connected to the heritage of our family farm, and Richard and I see some advantages and opportunity for them to continue working on the farm. Our youngest son is getting married next year and would like to live on the farm and start the 5th generation of Merritts to steward the land. We have been exploring some ideas for the land further for other ideas for the besides crops on it. So at the present time, both Richard and I work, and we would appreciate our sons contributing to help bring more life to the farm. And our family has great pride in our farm and property and would like to make it better for generations to come. So thank you. And if you have any questions or if you'd like to know more.
Awesome. Thank you, Anita. And so I'm going to move forward to see if there's any comments or questions from the public. So are there any oral written submissions from anyone present on the Zoom meeting regarding this proposed zoning bylaw amendment? I'd like to stress that this may be the only public meeting held with respect to this application. Therefore, if any members of the public that are in attendance at the Zoom meeting would like to make their comments now or provide them a written comment, they should do so now by using one of the 2 options. If you're on a computer or a smartphone, you're going to raise your hand on the controls found below on your display screen there. And if you're using a landline, we're going to ask that you dial *9, and that will notify our staff that you've raised your hand. Once you've been acknowledged to speak, please unmute your microphone. It is important to us to provide your comments now. If you have not done so in writing or verbally, as LPAT may not consider comments made during any other council and or committee meetings. Also, anyone wishing to speak are required to unmute their microphone to talk, and once they are finished, they should mute their microphone again. Prior to speaking, we do ask that you state your name and your address for the record. So just going to look around the gallery here. If there's any members of the public that would like to speak, please let me know. Not seeing any. I'm going to move forward to members of committee. Do any members of committee have any oral written submissions on this proposed zoning bylaw amendment? Please note that members of committee must make their comments now, as LPAT may not consider comments made at any other council and or committee meeting. Any member of committee wishing to speak are required to unmute their microphone to talk. And then once they're finished, we do ask that you remute your microphone. So members of committee, any questions or comments? I have Councillor Rayner and then Councillor Trombetta.
Thank you. Thank you, Anita, for your presentation. It's so nice and refreshing to have somebody come and talk about the family farm and how much it means to them. And the fact that you've had it for so many years when so many farms are being gobbled up and destroyed into housing. It's so nice that there are people who still appreciate and love agriculture and the importance of it and the lifestyle that it gives you. And I just thank you so much for that. And I will certainly support anything you need that will continue the family farm in the direction you're going. Thank you so much.
Councillor Trombetta.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation, Mrs. Merritt. As we know, we've met before and we've had conversation. I've been to the farm before. I think this is just something that's coming, which is, with the rising costs of a lot of things these days, I think this is more and more something in the future to see that what's going to happen more. And I'm not against this stuff. It's good to have the family still staying on the property, which is it's a nice, wholesome thing to have. And again, just to reiterate what Councillor Rayner said, anything you do need, we've had conversations, you have reached out to me in the past, and anything you need, we're here for support. So thank you for presenting tonight, Mrs. Merritt.
Okay, I'm going to move forward. So please be advised that only a technical report is being considered by committee this evening, and that a recommendation report will be forthcoming at a future committee and or council meeting. Please also be advised that once committee and or council has made a decision with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment, and if approved by council, a notice of their passing will be circulated with an appeal period. If you wish to be notified of council's decision, please ensure that you email the township clerk, Joanne Shime, at jshime@westlincoln.ca. Anyone else who's interested in observing council and or committee discussions or about a particular bylaw should not solely rely on mail notices and thus miss the opportunity to attend applicable meetings. It is suggested that you watch the township website for a posting of agendas to review items that will be discussed at council and or committee meetings. The agendas for meetings are posted at the township website after 4 p.m. on the Friday prior to the meeting. Additionally, meeting schedules are also noted on the township website for the public to view. And if you wish to receive notices by email, it is suggested that you reach out to our township clerk to advise of this request and include your email address along with your mailing address and your phone number. So at this point, the public meeting with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is concluded at the hour 7:01 p.m. Oops, I see, Miss, sorry, I know it's concluded, but I just caught your hand there. If you want to add one more comment there, you're welcome to.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to back up a moment, and I did want to take an opportunity to thank the planning department for all their help in helping me prepare the application and submit it, and in a very quick time period. I appreciate that, Brian, Garrett, and the girls there. Thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you. So the meeting's still adjourned at 7:01 p.m. and Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Councillor Riley, for conducting those two public meetings. So I'm going to continue by reiterating again, due to the efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 and to protect all individuals and to comply with the province's state of emergency order, the council chambers will not be open to the public to attend council meetings until further notice. As noted on tonight's agenda, if members of the public had any comments, they could provide them by email to the clerk 4:30 today. Please note that any email comments submitted will be considered as public information read into the public record later in the agenda. A reminder to the members of the public can attend this evening's council meeting virtually. This is noted on this evening's agenda and can be done by contacting the clerk by email prior to 4:30 today to request a Zoom invitation to the meeting. And this meeting is being audio and video recorded and will be posted on the township's website within 48 hours. This time, I'd like to call upon the members to stand for the singing of O Canada if you are able. I'll try to, there we go. O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command. With glorious hearts we see thee rise, a true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. I would like to read the land acknowledgement. On behalf of the members of council and staff, we wish to acknowledge this land on which the township of West Lincoln operates. The land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples and is still home to many Indigenous peoples today. We are grateful to have this opportunity to work here today and to follow the Haudenosaunee system of blending laws and values and the Anishinaabe beliefs to strive to live in harmony and balance throughout the municipality. We acknowledge that we are all treaty people and accept our responsibility to honor all our relations. This time, I'd like to call upon Councillor Ganand for the opening petition.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We meet to serve our community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognize our responsibility to the past and to the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, may we act wisely and well.
Thank you, Councillor. At this time, I'd like to ask, are there any changes in the order of items on the agenda? I see none, Madam Clerk, so I'm going to go and ask, are there any disclosures of pecuniary and or conflict of interest? Again, Madam Clerk, I see none. So we're going to move to ask, are there any people wishing to request any items on the agenda? Is there anyone in the Zoom meeting that is indicating they wish to provide comment, Madam Ms. Keith? Sorry.
Seeing none, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, were there any members of the public that emailed comments prior to 4:30 today with respect to a specific item on the agenda as permitted by section 6(7) of the procedural bylaw?
No, I did not receive anything, Mr. Mayor. However, I'm not sure if Jessica Dyson, our deputy, received anything or not, or if it'll be read later on in the agenda.
Yeah, I understand that there were 2 comments received that will be read at the appropriate spot in the bylaws. 16.6, I believe, are where they'll be read. Ms. Dyson, are there any comments that you would like to enter at this time?
No, Mr. Mayor, I have no further comments.
Thank you very much. Okay, then we move to appointments and presentations. On the line with us this evening, we have Pam Blackwood, is the Executive Director of McNally House. I also did see that there were a couple other people, but I'll let Pam introduce them and to our evening's meeting. The floor is yours, Ms. Blackwood.
Good evening, Mayor Bilsma and Councilman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to our submission this evening. I am going to pass the floor over to Marie Bain, our board chair and president of McNally House Hospice, to speak to our submission.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Thanks for the opportunity to come back to council this evening to clarify some items from our presentation and update you with several points that were not previously presented. I'll first address a number of comments made at your council meeting the week following our presentation. There were several comments made that I think we need to clarify upon. One of them in no particular order. One of them said, this expense is not traditionally in the mandate of municipal councils. So we have several points on that. The health care and welfare of our community certainly needs to be a priority of municipal councils. Secondly, the municipal council's support will allow McNally House to leverage financial support from the province, from the region, from corporations, and from individual donations. And then similar to other healthcare services, anyone in West Lincoln and in our catchment area may ultimately require hospice services. We also heard that this could be or is an additional strain on the taxpayers. So we understand that any contribution has financial implications, but we would argue that these impacts are very modest. The request of West Lincoln Council works out to be less than 1% of the $9.5 million goal, our Life in Every Moment campaign for McNally House. The annual ask for McNally House would be $14,000 per year, a little more than 1/5 of the annual contribution that West Lincoln will be making to West Lincoln Memorial Hospital. During your 221 budget deliberations, the $75,300 annual contribution to West Lincoln Memorial Hospital had a 1% impact on the municipal levy, but the impact on the blended tax rate was 0.3%. This investment that we're requesting will also cost less than $1 per year per resident. One other comment that was made is it is inappropriate for council to make a donation on behalf of the residents of the township of West Lincoln. This contribution would be an investment in West Niagara, not a donation that only benefits a donation that only benefits a charitable cause. This funding commitment is not reflective of a few residents. This is a commitment to the broader community and the expansion of an exemplary service. Moving on from those comments made at that meeting, the contributions of the three municipalities of Lincoln, West Lincoln, and Grimsby are essential as they will influence funding that we may be able to secure through the province. We are well aware also of a similar request made to the council from Hospice Niagara. Carol Nagy, who is their executive director, her comments included that a contribution by West Lincoln Council to McNally Hospice would help leverage further contributions and benefit hospice care throughout Niagara. I feel it's important to remind everyone that McNally House geography is intended to provide hospice care and services to the communities of West Lincoln, Lincoln, and Grimsby. I hope that you had the opportunity to review and explore the materials that we sent you the end of last week. You will note how important end-of-life care is to your community and the existing level of commitment of many members of West Lincoln. The makeup and fabric of the community of West Lincoln is a reflection of the people living in the community. The elected officials of West Lincoln should also reflect the nature of the people of the community it serves. The information provided for your review prior to this meeting shares the care and compassion of many of the people that live in this great community of West Lincoln. The municipality should provide funding for services that are important for the community it serves. I believe the letters and emails provided, from that, you can see the importance of hospice care. And then the reality is that these days, the rules have and continue to change, and all levels of government are in it together. So I would ask that West Lincoln Council reconsider our request for a $14,000 per year investment for the next 5 years in McNally House, enabling our expansion plans, which will better serve the people of West Niagara. It will go a long way in obtaining the commitment of other levels of government and the people of these communities. It's really, I have to say, it's critically important that we receive your support. Thank you, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions, or Pam, that you might have.
Well, thank you so much, Murray, and for your presentation. And I'm going to call upon councilors. Do you have any comments or questions? Councilor Rayner, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I must say, you guys don't give up. And I understand why. I realize the importance of it. But there's something in your letter, Murray, I'd like to get clarification if I could. It's the last paragraph on the first page. It says, lately, we are happy to learn that Regional Council committed to funding Hospice Niagara's capital request while making it known that any future requests from Niagara Hospices would be similarly supported, anticipating our future outreach to the region. When I read that, does that mean that basically anything you ask for, the region will approve? Because it almost looks like a blank check. It says any future requests would be supported. So it doesn't say that the region would cap it, or basically this is wide open. How did you interpret that?
I was pretty happy about that, but
I can imagine.
Yeah. However, and we have made an ask for a specific amount of money to the region of Niagara. It will be considered. We didn't request it for now. We requested it for the next budget round. And they did fully support Hospice Niagara's ask in the amount. So that is my understanding is that that's complete. But I do expect they will, when it's presented, that there will be questions and scrutiny on our amount as well.
I would hope so, because that would, to me, would be the process, but it almost looked like it's a blank check. And I could understand you'd be happy, but I also thought the region would be looking at it carefully, like any other proposal would be coming. So, I mean, it's good in your case, but it doesn't show that the region's looking after our tax dollar very well here. That's really what my concern is. The other thing I wanted to mention was I was one of the ones who didn't support it initially. And the reason was because I was concerned about the tax base. As I said, we have a massive tax increase for the MERS that, especially in my ward, had very little support. And it could cost us like $15,000 over its term to pay for something like that. We also have the hospital down below that we have to look at. So there is some concerns about that. And that kind of got me hesitant on the line. But the other thing that was something that was bothering me was the fact that not all were in attendance with regards to the vote for this. And one of the counselors was missing. And the only way that this could be brought back normally would be a reconsideration. But if I went by a reconsideration, that would mean that counselor would still not be able to vote, which is totally unfair. And I'm pretty sure that the individual would probably support this. So I think I'm glad that you brought it back in this direction because that means that all of us who are here tonight can vote collectively. I feel very strongly support hospices in that direction. I'm not sure what we can do tax-wise and dollar-wise, but I would be willing to support this to bring it to budget time for deliberation at that time. But like I said, your cause is very good. What you do for people is phenomenal. But it's a matter of is it the responsibility of the taxpayer or is it the charitable organization through donations? I think it needs further discussion. So it shouldn't stop at this point, in my opinion now, especially now that we can allow the other counselor to vote. I think it should be brought forward for deliberations in the fall, and let's see where it plays out at that time. If we have additional dollars that are available, then I can see it. If we come to a crunch, which most budgets are, then we're going to have to look at it in a different direction, but at least we should allow it to go through that process. So that's my feeling at this time. I certainly would support bringing it forward to budget time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. At this time, I just want to clarify that these are questions to the group that is presenting. I do understand that Councillor Broderick does have a motion, so we can speak to that again shortly. So Councillor Gannon, I did see your...
Oh, I'm good.
Okay, you're good?
Yeah.
Councillor Riley, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think I want to start with some of the confusion that it probably came out of the last meeting, at least from the way some of the messaging has come back to us. And so, just for the record, to clear the air, I've seen a few emails and phone calls that people were under the impression that council denied this. And in no way was that even the motion. The motion was that council accepted it for information and that we would talk about it at the appropriate time in which a member of council could bring back a budget. My comments before we're kind of putting the cart before the horse here, and we don't even know what the rest of the budget's going to look like. Why are we going to put this work on staff to worry about that until we get there and we kind of sink our teeth into the budget and figure out what needs to stay, what needs to go, what's going to get added. Again, like I've spoken about concerns, to the tax base, and I appreciate the breakdown of if trying to sell this as less than $1 per resident, but the reality of it, you're asking for $70,000 onto the tax base. And trying to figure out, after you hear from dozens and dozens of phone calls of residents saying they can't pay their rent, they can, they're struggling to, get back to work and everything in between, to kind of minimalize that in any capacity without realizing the full impact it's going to have on those residents too, is, I think, very unfair. I don't think any one of us would ever think for 1 second, by not supporting this anyway, that we think little of hospice. My grandfather was in hospice. And so, it holds near to me, but at the same time, I also have a responsibility to every single one of my constituents. And we get these types of requests all the time. In fact, this is not the first one. This is the second one. And from what I understand, the other hospice is coming back in a couple of months to give us their sales pitch again. And so again, if we start saying yes to everything right off the gate without knowing what next year is going to look like, and again, let's not forget, we're still in a pandemic. Restrictions have reduced themselves or have gotten in a better direction where we want them to be, but that doesn't change the economic crisis that is looming. And so looking, on a day-to-day, when I hear from residents, they're wanting me to look for reasons not to spend money and look for more efficient ways for us to utilize the funds that we have. And so I hope, Mr. Murray, by some of your comments there, I hope that you certainly weren't offended in any capacity by by not supporting you guys and just automatically fast tracking this to the budget was an insult to you and your organization, because I think, you know, that would have been misunderstood, because we do understand the importance and how critical the service is. But at the same time, there's only so much money that goes around, and we get to a point where, you know, those decisions need to happen. They happen at budget time. You know, essentially, if we say yes to everything, we just tax people out of the community. And then what service are we doing then? I think, you know, your comment there about focusing on, I think it was a reflection of one of my questions or one of my comments about municipalities not being in the business of donating to charities. You know, you yourself acknowledge that it's a charitable organization, and I understand the importance of the organization, but at the end of the day, you're still asking us to donate to that organization. And I realize your interpretation of it is investing into your cause, and I get it. You guys are super passionate about what you do, but at the end of the day, that comes out of one taxpayer. And it's not just you guys, it's every other project that we have. And so by all means, you know, I love to support you however I can. And I have no problem. My wife and I donate all the time to many different organizations, and include the hospice that had supported our family during that time, because we appreciate what they had to go through and what they provided us and our family. But by no means would I want to force that on our residents who are on fixed income, who are already struggling to make bottoms end, to pay the bills through a skyrocketing cost of everything going through the roof. So again, I take a little bit of offense to that is, you know, being directed at one of my comments, because I'm only standing up for the 16,500 other residents, and I'm not just looking at it on just a one-off situation, because every decision we make impacts the entire community. And I hope that we can encourage more dialogue and encourage the community to get behind, because I do believe you guys would hit your fundraising efforts a lot more quicker, and probably with half the amount of people contributing to it than expecting us to come up with a tax for people to contribute to this. So I say, with all due respect, unfortunately, I cannot support this, because of the situation that we're still in. If this came back in a year or two from now and the economy is booming back up in the right direction and people actually have money again, then I can support this. But this time, I just can't. So I don't necessarily have a question. I just wanted to make a statement to Mr. Murray there, because, you know, some of the comments he made implied something, and it's not fair to imply that, because by all means, that's not the reason why any individual wouldn't support such a wonderful organization. There's just bigger things to look at the same time. It's not just a black and white situation. You support it or you don't. So anyways, I just wanted to make that as clear as possible, and hopefully I did.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other
Could I respond to that, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Bain.
Yes, thank you. And you know, it's certainly council's responsibility to choose what goes in its budget and what's most important. And in no way, Mr. Riley, did my comments intend to offend you by any way at all. I think we understand, or I hope we understand, that healthcare is a very important part of our communities. If we're not well, and that's a reason I'm sure that West Lincoln contributed to the hospital, that the three communities needed to get together to get West Lincoln Memorial Hospital built. And McNally House and hospice care is part of healthcare and is critical to our well-being of our communities. So perhaps where I put it on the list and where you put it on the list are two different places, and that's fair and understandable, but it's at the top of my list. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. Councilor Trombetta, a question for the presenters?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bain, for the presentation. It did come, and it came on my agenda, and then you know, it was received for information. Following that, you know, I did receive a bunch of phone calls from some residents, how important it is to them. We also did receive some emails. What the only part, Mr. Bain, I found is a little disappointing is that, you know, what I spoke to my constituents was about, you know, if something's very important, we would like to hear from them at council as well, you know, to come and you know, present to us and show their importance as well with this item. I would have really liked to see this. You know, I know we got, you know, I know I got 5 or 6 phone calls after, and, you know, I saw the passion that they had. And sometimes you, as councils, we have so many presentations back to back to back to back to back I would have loved to see these constituents come forward with you at that presentation, or even some comments afterwards, right? But nevertheless, they did reach out, and I thought it's really important, and I was thankful that they reached out. But I guess I'll concur with Councillor Rayner. If, you know, again, this is all budget approved. You know, it can go to budget. In our budget deliberation, I think our budget gets finalized in February. If there's some room to possibly make it go through, you know, there's always that possibility. So I'll kind of concur with Councillor Rayner in saying, you know, we can bring it to budget and go from there at that point. And, you know, again, many things can happen up to then. You never know how life takes us ahead, but the least we could say that now is maybe we can possibly bring that to then and go from there. So again, I'd like to thank you for your presentation a second time, and much appreciated. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Gannon. Oh, yeah.
I passed up my opportunity because there's no resolution on the floor.
Yeah.
And I thought that we were just doing a question to Mr. Bain and not really stating what our opinion. However, when we're ready to do that, I would like an opportunity to speak to that, please, that resolution, because we did not refer it to budget at the time. So therefore, it would be very, very difficult to bring it back at budget time once staff have already worked through and made their presentation to us, including all of the asks. So I feel it's very important that we get it tonight to at least to the budget process, that where we say that we are willing to look for a way to support that. And so I have more I would rather say, but I will wait till the resolution is actually on the floor and we're doing this in a proper way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Gannon, for appreciating that. Councillor Jonker?
Well, that's just exactly what I was going to mention, and I would like to make a friendly amendment when that after the end, but whatever, I think we can discuss that when it comes up. So looking forward to that part of the discussion.
Great. So at this point, if there's no further questions for the presenters, I'd like to thank them, Pam and Murray and your team for presenting to us this evening. And you're welcome, of course, to stay on and watch the proceedings. At this time, we're going to move forward. I'm going to go call upon Councillor Bradrick to present a motion.
I'd just like to say thanks for everybody for listening tonight and for the opportunity. It's much appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Pam. Councillor Bradrick, go ahead, please.
Thank you, sir. Moved by myself, Councillor Shelley Bradrick, that the letter dated July 21st, 2021 from Murray Bain, Debbie Zimmerman, campaign co-chair, McNally House, which provides new additional information relating to the McNally House Hospice Expansion Project be received, and
I'm looking for a seconder. Okay, so I'm going to count Councillor Gannon to second it, but Councillor Rayner had his finger up first.
Yes, just to say, and supported to be forwarded to further discussion at budget time.
Okay, yeah. Councillor, so that's the motion to be supported, presented at budget time, to be deliberated at budget time.
Correct.
Okay, great. Councillor Gannon, you were itching to speak at this before and you deferred. So at this time, I'm going to call upon you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that my interpretation that Councillor Rayner asked Mr. Bain about was that the region is looking with a very kind heart at the healthcare of their residents. And I think that West Lincoln needs to be doing the same. When we worry about people, one of the things we should worry about is that people used to die and take up beds in hospital and die in a very informal method. This is a free service to our residents if they are in need of it or if family members are in need of it. It also provides, if when they move forward to the new portions, caregivers would have some more support than what they have. We have a great many of our residents right now caring for their loved ones who are in a lot of cases dying of cancer, other things as well, but cancer is a big one that I am well aware of in our community. And I think that this is a service that our residents deserve. And if our putting a small portion of the cost to that helps McNally House get more money in the grand scheme of things, then $70,000 is a lot of money out of 1 year. It's not a lot of money over 5 years. We have It could be just attached to the hospital money, as far as I'm concerned. And it can be one of those things that is done at the end of the time that it's supposed to be done. I know that our treasurer has an excellent handle on making sure that those things are there. I know there was some concern about it staying on the tax base forever, and it was compared to our community center, but that's a 30-year thing, the community center. And of course, it's going to be there a long time. This does not have to be there forever. But if in the meantime, it helps somebody deal with their loss of a loved one, and it does not cost them extra money out of their pocket that they probably have already had to spend on medications and other types of care, then I think that it behooves us to support it. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ganand. Councillor Jonker, please go ahead. And then Councillor Riley.
Yeah, so what I would, I was hoping I could put the "and" as more as we ask staff to look at how we can finance this, and then at budget time, have a debate on it. So basically, I'd like to see that "and." I'm not great with putting words together quickly, but have staff look at how we can find $14,000 for the next 5 years to support this, and such, and more of a wording that way, that we actually ask staff to see how we could do this.
Okay, I'm gonna just pause and ask CAO Hendry to just weigh in, or Director of Finance, if there's a way that's implied in the amendment, or if we need some extra wording.
Think through you, I guess to you, Mayor. I will defer this to our treasurer, but I will say this at the outset is you have two distinct, what I'm hearing is two distinct types of direction. One is just to consider it. And the second one that Councillor Ymca has put forward is to be more deliberate, to direct staff to give more thought to how this could be done. So to Treasurer Donna DeFilippis, do you have anything to add to that discussion?
Yes, through you, Mayor Bylsma. If council were to have a recommendation that this be referred to budget, that means that I would look at financing options, and it would be clearly presented to council so they can make a decision. So I don't think you need to add anything by referring it to budget. I believe what Councillor Jonker wants to be accomplished will be accomplished.
Okay, thank you, Director. Councillor Jonker, does that satisfy your concern?
Yeah, yes, that does. Thank you, Director of Finance, for that.
Okay, any other comment? Councillor Riley, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make a couple comments here. Actually, one to Councillor Ganand's comment about this would be the time to send this forward to staff so they know to look at this at budget. From my recollection, out of the last 3 budgets I've done, we've never advised staff this far advanced what to put into the budget there. A lot of that stuff comes actually from conversations we had, whether it's through the strat plan originally, things we wanted to achieve, or other things that had come up that we talked about in the month of January. So I am, please correct me if I'm wrong, and please give me examples where I'm wrong. But to my understanding, that is the time to do it, because they always ask us, okay, is there anything you want us to consider? How do you want us to go back with? And a lot of times that's the direction we give them in January. So again, maybe that, that has escaped me in some capacity, but that's my recollection of how all the budgets have been handled, at least during my short tenure here. But I did want to ask, keep in mind, like my biggest concern is if, people in their current living condition having to endure more tax money, right? Essentially, we're having to potentially raise taxes to donate. That's my interpretation of this now. I'm trying to, cut back what necessarily take away my personal opinion on it. And I'm looking at it from my professional opinion and how we're going to, how do we deal with this, right? If I base on my personal opinion, yeah, I'm going to support everything I possibly can, but my professional opinion is going to outweigh my personal opinion, because I got to do what's in the best interest of the entire community and looking at things in the current dynamic of the pandemic. And so my question to you, Mr. Mayor, to our Director of Finance, Donna DeFilippis, is I guess, and I guess I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit. I know I reached out to you a little bit, trying to pick your brain beforehand, but could there be another way to fund this without this having to incur a higher tax that's delivered on our residents this year? Is there potentially a surplus or a reserve of some capacity that could accommodate this? I realize reserves are fueled through through the tax base. So that again kind of sits a little uneasy of me, but I would love to see if we're going to support this, that this not be supported by having to raise taxes, but to reprioritize tax money that we've already have in some capacity.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Bylsma, to Councillor Riley. I'll give you something that happened a few years ago. It was probably the council before you. They were faced with a commitment to the YMCA, so much money over so many years. And when it came to that council to look at funding it, the recommendation through the budget was to fund it through a reserve. So that payment to the YMCA is still currently in our budget, and it is currently being funded through a reserve. So, you know, the question you had, could this be funded through a reserve? It could be. That option is available.
And I guess to add to that, so the YMCA, we have actually one more year commitment to them. Is that correct? Does it expire at the end of 2022, or does it expire before that?
Through you, Mayor Bylsma, to Councillor Riley, I know I should know that,
Oh.
But I think you're correct.
I think it's 8 years, if I'm not mistaken. And I think when we came on, my term is like the last 4 years. So I think that's where that is. Because kind of hoping if it was just done just in time, it almost crosses over, if not less. So, you know, hopefully we can reapproach that. Again, I think it's going to be a tough budget, but I'm not completely thinking that anything's impossible. I like the idea of thinking there's always a possibility, and just trying to find a way of doing it without creating further hardship to our residents. And so that's kind of where my way of looking at it. And if this is something that people want to talk in a more fulsome discussion and a time where we can literally have everything we need in front of us to see where and if and how that can be funded, I'm not opposed to that. Again, my biggest opposition is basically having to justify raising taxes on people, you know, especially people who aren't working, who are struggling to pay their bills, who are on fixed incomes, who haven't seen raises, and then trying to justify that among all the other decisions we have to make as a council. And so I will support the idea that this is referred to budget. I will not support anything that makes a commitment at this point, because a part of me is skeptical whether or not this can even make it through budget. And I'm not the kind of guy who's going to promise somebody something and then turn around and not deliver on it. And so as long as the representatives here understand that, you know, any support tonight is not a check. It is really just a matter of there's going to be another discussion on it later, and we'll see if and how that can conform with our budget. Then I'll support that portion of it. But I certainly don't want there to be the mistaken idea that I am supporting this through and through, because I feel that would just be disappointing people should the situation or the information come forward that we can't do things in a way that doesn't incur more tax money on the residents.
Thank you, Councillor. And I have good news for you. By considering it this early, there will be quite a window for you and myself and the rest of council to receive information that and consider options at the budget time. So this is not the budget time. This is just to consider it at the budget time. And you're absolutely correct. This doesn't commit us to anything, just commits us to having it on the plate for that budget proceedings. Anyone else wishing to conclude out this discussion? Then seeing none, I'm going to call the question on the motion as amended. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. And thank you again for the presenters. Moving on, we have another presentation, appointment presentation. Matt Robinson, Director of GO, the Niagara Transit Governance Revised Strategies Reflection Phase 1 Municipal Consultation. So we've been introduced to Matt Robinson before. He's no stranger to this council. And so let's talk transportation and transit. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me screen share here. All right, hope things are lined up here. Oh, there we go. All right. Well, thank you and good evening, Mayor and Council. And we appreciate the opportunity to be here again to discuss the latest transit governance update. I'm pleased to be here on behalf of the Linking Niagara Transit Committee and the CAO Governance Steering Committee. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to continue our discussion and consultation with Council regarding the future of transit in Niagara and take another step forward toward an integrated, consolidated transit system. With me here tonight are Heather Talbot and Scott Fraser from the Regions project team, who were with me last time as well to help with Q&A at the end of the presentation. I wanted to recognize the town's regional councillors, Mayor Bylsma and Councillor Witteveen, and recognize the hard work of town staff, in particular your CAO, Bev Hendry, who's been an active participant in the area CAO Governance Steering Committee, who's been guiding this work, and also to Steve McGeehan, who is an active member of our transit working group. So tonight is an update on the progress that has been made since we were before Council earlier this year. At that time, we presented the results of the Niagara Transit Governance Study, as well as an associated financial model, and received feedback from every municipality. In particular, we heard that the previously proposed financial model did not work for West Lincoln. What we want to demonstrate tonight is that we've listened, we heard you, and we want to get this proposal right. We took your feedback and under the leadership of the 13 CAOs, have developed a series of revised strategies we hope meet with your expectations. Tonight is a chance to review these revised models and for you to provide any additional feedback. To be clear, tonight is a second round of consultation and an opportunity for further discussion. Tonight does not represent the triple majority vote to move forward with consolidation. That's anticipated to come later this year after we've heard from all municipalities again and reflected any additional feedback we receive. Your feedback last time focused on the financial strategy and the costs that would be apportioned to West Lincoln residents under an assessment-based model. We also heard the need to better understand how transit could benefit and serve residents in West Lincoln, given that the NRT on-demand pilot had only recently been launched. This feedback was very consistent with what we heard from your peers. These three common themes emerged during the first phase of consultation and are where we focused our efforts to revise the proposal. To address the feedback, the existing CAO working group was expanded and reformed as the CAO Transit Governance Steering Committee. The Governance Steering Committee included all 13 CAOs from across Niagara, including Ms. Hendry, and was supported by senior staff from municipalities across the region, such as your treasurers, communication professionals, and transit leads. Its mandate was to take the feedback and revise the financial, governance, and service models to reflect what we heard from municipalities. It's the output of this process that we're here to share with you tonight. Last time, we clearly heard the financial strategy didn't work for all municipalities. As a result, we went back to first principles and examined a wide range of alternatives. In fact, there were 11 different options that were ultimately considered and analyzed. Our core objective was to ensure we address this key point of municipal feedback. In particular, we needed to ensure that municipalities were paying for the services they received, given differing levels of service already existed in many municipalities. The new financial strategy, based directly on municipal feedback, now uses 12 special levy tax rates, one for each municipality, linked directly to the transit service hours you receive. This service-based principle means that residents will pay for the service they receive both now and as growth happens into the future. Under the new model, your regional special levy pays for service in your community. The financial strategy also incorporates a number of additional features, such as the establishment of a capital reserve to ensure that the future needs of the commission are met. So what does this mean for West Lincoln specifically? Today in West Lincoln, residents contribute a total of $500,000 towards transit on their regional tax levy, with no local levy funds going towards transit. This supports the NRT on-demand pilot project, which serves West Lincoln, providing trips between West Lincoln and neighboring communities, as well as the NRT system and Niagara Specialized Transit. Within the currently proposed financial strategy, we have not incorporated the addition of local on-demand service, understanding that the decision to move toward local service would be a future decision of the Commission made in consultation with this Council. Accordingly, on opening day of the integrated system in 2023, costs to West Lincoln residents would remain stable. Your residents would, however, receive the general benefit from access to the broader integrated transit system across Niagara. In 2025, as the first phase of service improvements are implemented, the on-demand hours of operation are proposed to expand, resulting in an additional 3 extra hours of weekday and Saturday service, as well as the introduction of Sunday and holiday service for West Lincoln residents. In the future, should local on-demand service be introduced in West Lincoln, the cost for that service on the new regional special tax levy will be directly tied to the service hours provided. In keeping with the overall principle of the updated financial strategy, your residents will only pay for the services they receive. The second area of feedback we heard was related to the composition of the Commission board. In particular, we heard from a number of councils that additional or more frequent representation on the board was a priority. The revised composition is a transitional board be established for the first 3 years, comprised of 15 elected representatives from across Niagara with at least 1 dedicated representative for each municipality. The transitional board, made up of regional and/or local councillors, directly reflects the municipal feedback we heard for enhanced elected representation, providing an opportunity for elected officials to directly guide the establishment of the Commission in its early years. The Commission board would be supported, as we mentioned last time, by an advisory board, which has been expanded to comprise of 20 public and interested party representatives that would provide non-binding input and advice to the Commission board on a quarterly basis. After the first 3 years, an external review of the transitional model would be undertaken to examine if the fully elected composition of the Commission board, its size, and distribution of representation is achieving the strategic outcomes of the Commission. The third theme that emerged was the need for additional detail on how service would be maintained and enhanced, especially in the early days of the Commission. To provide this detail, a project team led by one of the local transit managers was established to develop a series of service standards. The approach of a series of standards was chosen because, as of right now, every transit service in Niagara operates a bit differently in terms of hours of operation, service coverage, frequency, and so on. And establishing a common baseline for the future presents the best method to integrate and standardize the differences. The standards that were developed are intended to act as a guideline to the future Commission, indicating the types of enhancements that it might choose to undertake, but ultimately allows municipalities the confidence in knowing how service is likely to expand in their communities over the coming years. The rollout of the standards has been grouped into 3 phases. Phase 1, standardization of operating hours. Phase 2, combined specialized and on-demand or demand responsive services. And Phase 3, network optimization. As we've discussed, transit in West Lincoln today is currently delivered through NRT on demand for intermunicipal trips, and specialized transit services are provided by Niagara Region to West Lincoln residents through Niagara Specialized Transit. Under the Commission model, on-demand or demand responsive transit will be continued and shared across many municipalities in Niagara. For West Lincoln, this means that in Phase 1, the hours the service operates currently would be extended, adding new service early in the morning between 6 and 7 a.m. and extending service late at night between 10 p.m. and midnight, and also includes service on Sundays and holidays. In Phase 2, the Commission will look at the opportunity to harmonize the on-demand and specialized transit services into one combined shared service operation. This will be considered as a way to more efficiently deploy the resources of the Commission, given that these 2 services share a number of similarities. In Phase 3, the Commission would undertake a comprehensive network review to then examine further opportunities to grow and enhance the network. As mentioned, the move towards local transit service in West Lincoln has been identified as a future decision point to be made between the commission and this council. So what comes next? We've committed to listening, addressing and integrating your feedback to create a proposal that can be successful and to ensuring you have all the information you need to make an informed decision when triple majority comes forward in the fall. We hope that the revised strategies that we've presented tonight and which are accompanied in the regional report, the financial model, new service standards, and a revised board composition have addressed the feedback and concerns this council identified during the first round of consultation. What we're asking for tonight is any additional feedback that you have on the revised strategies. From here, we will be incorporating any additional feedback in the final strategies that form the consideration vote later this fall. So with that, Mr. Mayor, thank you again for the time tonight, and we look forward to answering any questions that council may have.
And thank you very much, sir, for that presentation. So at this time, are there any questions for the presenter? Just questions for the presenter. Some clarity. Go ahead, Councillor Ganan. You're on mute. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't, and then I was again very quickly with a slip of the finger. So I appreciate the fact that we were heard, Mr. Robinson. Thank you so much for coming back and at least acknowledging that we had some pretty serious concerns. I do wonder, you know, I appreciate that this is the time in the life of the region, that 50 plus years mark, to do something about transit. It's certainly long overdue. However, we are a community that is in our own flux right now as we are growing and have future growth coming at us again. It's an expectation of the region that we grow. It's an expectation of ours that we grow. And there have been some people expressing concern, but what I looked at your charts and I read all that very carefully, but what specifically do you see us being able to do if we start hearing from more and more and more of our new residents in particular, and our older residents especially coming in saying, you know, okay, why can't we now have better NRT? I mean, the transit that the people are using to travel to Grimsby or to travel to Lincoln, those people are very pleased. But we have still our rural residents who have no way to get into the doctor's office or the grocery store or the dentist or whatever from one part of West Lincoln, you know, to the core in Smithville where many of those businesses are. So I guess I would really like you to give us some kind of what you see in your mind as the way that this council is going to be able to address those concerns of our residents if we see in a year or 2, 3 that is a new need and a growing need.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, what I can say, Councillor Ganan, is that at the current time, in the current status quo state, municipal transit, meaning that trip from the grocery store to your home or your home to the dentist, any trip within the municipality of West Lincoln, must be paid for and covered because it's the jurisdiction of each local municipality. If and this is where conversation has occurred in the past with committee and others, the extension of service locally is $250,000 annually for the local municipality to join NRT on demand.
Right.
That's in the short term. When or if the service is consolidated and we have a new commission that is created, at that point in time, that's where the town of West Lincoln would look to the commission to say, we are prepared and would like to have local service extended. Ultimately, it's up to the commission to determine whether or not service should be extended locally into each or any remaining municipality. Current time, that's West Lincoln and Waynfleet as the two who don't have local service. So that process of extending service in year, let's say 2, 3, or 4. So we'll say 2023, 24, 25, that's going to be at the request of your council to the new commission and or by the commission into its service extension. What I can say is in the lead up to that, in the current state has each municipality contributing local levy dollars into the regional, the NRT, which Pelham, Lincoln, and Grimsby do currently. And that's the price of $250,000. So that's how in the short term you can make that determination. And in the longer term, that is a collaborative discussion between both yourselves and the new commission, which ultimately would go to the regional levy in years 2023, 4, or 5, or whenever at that future date that contribution or request would be made for that extension.
Okay, so thank you for that. I appreciate the $250,000, which was the stumbling block for us the last time, because that is a huge hit. I mean, you were here for the last round when we were talking about our tax base. It's very small. It does not take much more than $75,000, if around, give or take some, to change our taxes by 1%. And that's a big cost to a small municipality, which is why Waynflete are faced with the same thing. However, Waynflete are not in the growth mode that West Lincoln is. And so I just want to say, so that's still a major concern. But I appreciate that the timeline has changed, because at one point in time, it sounded like West Lincoln was going to be paying quite a lot more money over the first few years and was not going to potentially see any change until nearly 2027 in terms of any services. So I appreciate that the timeline has been changed somewhat. We still are going to have an issue, even when it comes to the triple majority, I think, in terms of trying to satisfy what the residents might want in, say, 2 years or 3 years, and still be paying $250,000 additionally if it stays at that amount. You know, I suppose that's changeable too, because that was the amount set for a pilot project. So is there potential to change that as well, Matt?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, yes. I think going forward, the only thing I can say at the present time, councillor, is that under the current duration of the region's pilot of NRT on demand, that is the annual buy-in cost for municipalities, that $250,000. Beyond the current agreement, which extends to August of 2022, sorry, doing my math here, 22, after August 2022, the region's going to have to make a decision on whether or not to extend again to, if the new commission is there, the new commission will then make a determination as to how they're going to deliver that on-demand service going forward. So I would argue that that price of $250,000 is only while the region in its current state is operating in its current 24-month pilot program with our current provider. Whether we go back to market, whether we go in-house through the commission, that price is subject to change going forward, whether we consolidate and create a single entity or whether or not we remain status quo as 9 different transit agencies.
Okay, well, thank you for that additional information.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Riley, please go ahead if you have questions for the presenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, through you to and Mr. Robinson there. So I actually, Councillor Ganaan took a couple of my questions there as well. So her and I are definitely on the same page. Some of the other questions I have, one might be a little bit ahead of itself, but the first one is, was privatization of this in any capacity considered? Like, I think, there's opportunity here to bring in a partnership, and I don't think it has to be solely funded and supported by, taxpayers. And so I'd really like to know if that at all was considered, because I think that's a golden opportunity, if not completely privatizing the whole thing, but it's, in some capacity, because again, like, what the economy is going to look like a few years from now. We're having ripple effects already from the current pandemic. And again, I feel like, communities like ours, Waynflete, you know what I mean? I'm sure other areas, that are smaller, that are, border cities even, where are we going to find these monies, and that's my biggest concern, is what that future looks like. What is somebody going to have to live without of so that we can, provide this service? And so again, my question to you is privatization in any capacity considered in this? And why not, if it hasn't been?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, what I can say is privatization, and I'll go with privatization and correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor, but letting the market provide a solution. I'll use that as privatization, because right now, a private sector operator delivers the service contracted by Niagara Region. So I would characterize that as contracting out a service versus a scenario of privatization where the market would provide something. On that front of the market being left to provide a service, I will say, after extensive consultation, even a taxi service within the township of West Lincoln is incredibly difficult. It's unreliable, it's expensive, and it's infrequent. And the market has not provided any transit services into all of West Niagara. Hence why the region has stepped in to fill that void at a rate that is affordable to Niagara residents. And I think that's where, I can say that we've reviewed that. We've heard extensively from the public around the cost of a private trip on whether it's Uber, whether it's on taxi, the reliability of that, the frequency of it. We've heard extensively from the public, hence why we sort of jumped into this space in the first place. So if I'm correct in that privatization is letting the market provide a solution, there's been how many decades of opportunity for the private sector to provide a solution of which they have not, which was the impetus for public sector coming in and providing that connectivity between and among municipalities. And with over 25,000 rides during the pandemic, we're at a place now where the service is being exceptionally utilized and is quite spread out relatively equally across the larger 4 municipalities in West Niagara.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate that explanation. The other question I have, which could really be putting the cart before the horse here, is with these board positions and looking at things and how they're going to be run fiscally speaking, are these paid board positions that you're aware of? Are these members that are going to be sitting on this board? Are they going to receive some kind of remuneration?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, I would leave that question probably to our regional clerk. I would argue that as a board, as a separate board, and perhaps Mayor Bylsma may have more insight into this as well, serving on boards outside of formal regional subcommittees, perhaps. I will say, councillor, at this time that we have not discussed remuneration for positions on that board for the 15 members that are being proposed.
Okay. And the reason I ask that is when in a private sector, at the end of the day, when, cuts are need to be made or they have to, improve efficiencies, it usually goes to their bottom line. And if they're not doing enough of a service, they don't get as much traction. They're willing to cut more within inside of the organization. When we do things in the public sector, any shortcomings falls back on the tax base. So again, I just wanted to understand the kind of people who would be steering this ship, so to call it. And so there's just kind of an idea that just popped in that I thought I'd ask just in case you had an answer for it. So that's all my questions for now, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Trombetta, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's Mr. Robinson. You did present before this proposal to West Lincoln. Back then I was hesitant, and I kind of concur with the other councillors around the table that $250,000 is a big cost to our tax levy. I find that, especially coming from the rural ward and way out, I find that the service is not so beneficial to our rural residents. We are one of the biggest. West Lincoln is one of the biggest landmass areas of all the Niagara region. So getting to this service is really tough, I find, for some of our residents. I find that if we make a commitment, I find that this service is just not that it's not beneficial, but I find that other municipalities in the Niagara region will benefit more with us contributing to this service. At this moment, you've made great presentations. I see this something in the future, but it's at this moment where we are, how rural we are at this moment. It's very, very tough for me to get on board with this, especially, like I said, Ward 2 and Ward 1 are very spread out. They are, it's almost a half-hour ride sometimes between Ward 1 and Ward 2 to get to one, if that's quite sure the mayor and Harold who drives truck, it's probably a little bit longer. It could be 40 minutes from one corner to the other. So those are just my comments I wanted to make. And Mr. Mayor, if I can, at the time of vote, I'd like to ask for a recorded vote for this one.
Okay. Yep. All right. I'm going to go to Madam CAO. Go ahead, Bev.
Thank you. Just a few points that I want to make sure that you are aware of. The Niagara Region Group is doing consultation this summer with a number of our users, and we have had a lot of interest from high school students, people who want to go to Brock University or Niagara College, some of our students who might be going down to the new high school. So I think there is a growing demand that we have to make sure that we learn and understand their needs. And I know that they'll be reporting back on that information as they gather that up. We've also had a number of industries who have been really keen to get this service included in the township. And I know that they're also going to be going out and speaking to some of those local businesses as well. So to the counselors, when you're listening, and make sure you hear the whole picture and get the information from all the different groups that might have an interest in using this type of service. And then also, just to clarify, someone coming from anywhere in West Lincoln can take advantage of the on-demand right now and be taken to another municipality. So it could be the farthest corner, the more southwest corner of the township of West Lincoln, and go to Grimsby for $6. And I think that has been, and I think I know that Councillor Woodavine has ensured that we continue to get the updates of the usage. And I'm always quite delighted to see how many people actually are using the service, including some of our staff actually, which is I always get good feedback on that. So I'll leave it. It was just some fill-in information I wanted to make sure you were aware of.
Great. So thank you, Madam CAO. So councillors, to the presenter, any more comments or questions for the presenter? I see none. So thank you very much, Mr. Robinson, for your presentation. We will be considering a resolution immediately. So again, thank you for coming and giving us information, answering our questions.
Thank you.
All right. So then I have a resolution by Councillor Ganan. I believe you have the resolution for this item.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself. 1, that Niagara Region Report LNTC-C 3-2021 regarding Niagara Transit Governance revised strategies reflecting Phase 1 municipal consultation, as well as the PowerPoint presentation presented at the July 26, 2021 council meeting, be received for information. And 2, that staff be and are hereby directed to provide any additional municipal feedback on the revised financial strategy, board composition model, and service standards strategy by no later than August 25th, 2021.
Okay, so just so the council is just aware, before I ask for a seconder, just to note just the 2 items. So there were a lot of parts of the discussion this evening that we were trying to impress upon Mr. Robinson, but really at this time, we're going to provide municipal feedback on the financial strategy, board composition, and service standard strategy. So that's really what's on the table here. Can I get a seconder, please? And I have Councillor Bradrick. Thank you very much. So on the motion that's before us, any comments or questions? And I did note that Councillor Trombetta did ask for a recorded vote on this particular motion when we came to it. Again, just to be aware that at this point, they're looking for feedback on financial strategy, board composition, and service standards, which is what Mr. Robinson focused on this evening. Councillor Riley, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm trying to think who to put this to. I guess maybe to you, to the CAO, and then if she feels somebody else should speak to it, she can redirect. But obviously, to vote to receive this is the easiest part. We're just receiving the information. I know when they first came back to us, I was definitely one of the ones that voted. I think most of us, if not, 90% of us voted against this because we know what the implication was going to be. And we wanted to be very clear with the messaging that we were sending, that we didn't want this forced on us. We realize there's many different layers to how this is going to play out. And I kind of feel we're back at that door again. What can actually be implied by endorsing anything. And so I'm a little concerned here what we could actually accidentally be sending there. And I want to make sure our signals aren't crossed. But I understand that they're asking here that we provide additional municipal feedback. And so I'm through you to the CAO. Is this something that you're going to take on yourself? Is this something we're going to hold a special council meeting to talk about more? I'm just trying to understand like what more they need to hear from us that they haven't already heard from us. Is this just really them just trying to keep us involved in the conversation? I just want to make sure that's very clear before I vote here, because a big part of me wants to send the message that I'm not interested in this right now, because I don't think our community should be able or can be able to afford it at this time. And when that later time, we can be a part of it. But at the same time, if this is something that the CEO believes or any member of staff believes is vital for us to be a part of, then I want to hear that as well, because I want to take that into consideration.
Okay, Madam CAO.
Okay, through you, Mayor Bylsma, to Councillor Riley. A really good and fair question. So I've been sitting on the CAO working group, and I'm sure they'll correct me because I've used the wrong title for that. We've been meeting a lot, and what I can tell you is that they listened to the comments that you raised in January or February and took them to heart. And frankly, and I continue to advocate for your positions on that as we went forward, which is why what you have before you right now is a revised financial strategy that is recognizing our current level of service and our current level of contribution to the regional levy, as we've always done, and there's no change for us. But if you continue to be in and want to continue to pursue and be part of this, then in the future, there will be easier models to convert to a more broad or more rigorous transit program. So right now you're receiving a report from staff that basically the region went away and they listened to everybody, and they brought forward a report to say that. And then they brought forward a report to let you know what they're thinking about in terms of a composition. And which I think is fine. And, that if you want to provide me with some comments about what the composition should be, right now, they're basically ensuring that every municipality in the region would be included on the transitional board. And I've been encouraging them to move to more of a hybrid board, but we will be talking about that at a CAO level, that when you move towards a future model, that you have more people that are more skilled in the transit delivery on the board. But that's going to take a few years. And I know that Matt will also comment on that point as well. So, and I'm going to continue to sit on those CAO working groups. And I know and understand the points that you've been making. I know our council's position on the budget and their concerns, and the fact that they also want to be ready for when we do need to be providing more service. So that's the direction you're giving. I won't be coming back, but if you have comments, I will make sure that we don't have another council meeting between now and August 25th. So tonight's meeting is really important to hear what you have to say about all these different matters and concerns. And other than that, you're saying thank you for presenting and the information that you took away and revised based on the concerns that you raised last time. And I would never, and I think you know this, I would never commit our municipality to a financial contribution without making sure that you actually approved it.
Well, thank you for that. And that's a part of you answered one of the other questions I was going to have, which is you're still part of the communication, and there's one way or another. So again, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that in no way could this be misinterpreted or misunderstood, that supporting this at this time is a commitment in, because I certainly am not in that position right now. But as far as receiving it for information and whatever other further comments you have, you'd like to commit to that, I have no problem supporting.
And I think what was confusing, or why the council voted against it last time, was because the financial model that you heard then had an increased contribution for our municipality, and with no additional service. So, and I've been really clear that why on earth would we be wanting to contribute more and not get more service? So the group has actually listened very, very clearly to our concerns and other municipalities' concerns as well. So I'm basically saying that what you didn't like last time has been fixed. And now when we're looking at, as Councillor Ganan said, we're at the 50-year mark, and maybe things in terms of a big service like transit needs an adjustment and needs to change. And maybe this is the way to do it, as long as our concerns are addressed.
Thank you. That's all my question, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And I saw Councillor Rayner. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the CAO. Further to Councillor Trombetta's comments, can you please tell me how this will address the needs and wants of people who are way out in the vast rural areas of this largest municipality in the region of Niagara?
So through you, Mayor Bylsma, to Councillor Rayner. And I may ask for clarification from our specialists on this, but right now, our residents, through the amount of money that we contribute to regional transit, can use the on-demand service from anywhere in the municipality and be taken to another municipality. They can't go anywhere inside our municipality because we have not contributed to the intra demand program, but can go to any other. So, and for $6, it's a very good value. They can go to Grimsby and get a connection through to yet another regional transit spot. So, and people are using it, and I hope you are all looking at those stats as they come forward. And Matt, can I ask you to fill that in a little bit more, because you are much closer to this than I.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that, Bev. I thought it was a great synopsis. I too have heard a number of comments about all corners of the municipality. NRT On Demand serves the entire footprint of West Niagara. It doesn't matter which corner of which municipality you're living in, you hail a ride on NRT On Demand, and in West Lincoln, no matter where you live, no matter whether it's an hour-long trip or a 15-minute trip, you can leave the municipality and go to the grocery store in Grimsby, Lincoln, Pelham, or Waynfleet. You cannot at the current time take a trip from your house to the grocery store in your municipality, but for any destination outside of West Lincoln, no matter where you live, whether on NST, which is Niagara Specialized Transit, or NRT On Demand, which is I hail a ride now and within 20 minutes, one's at my door, you may take that trip. Any resident within your municipality can take those trips.
Is that clear, Councillor Rayner?
Almost. Is that $6 one way or return?
$6 one way.
So you have to call when you go to another municipality, and then for $6, even if you go to Niagara on the Lake, you'll get returned home.
For another $6, yes.
For another $6.
That's correct.
That's a good deal.
It's a good deal. Councillor Trombetta.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson, why doesn't it allow us from my house to go to the physio and keep my dollars in Smithville? Why is it only allowing me to go bring my dollars to a physiotherapist in Grimsby?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. That was the $250,000 local service that Councillor Ganan was talking about earlier. The three municipalities of Lincoln, Pelham, and Grimsby have opted in for the additional amount because local transit cannot be delivered by Niagara Region. It is a local responsibility. And as such, those three municipalities have given the region $250,000 to deliver local portions, local trips within their municipalities, and granted us permission to then operate a local service within the boundaries of those three municipalities.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Robinson, you're telling me that it's going to cost me $250,000 to get a trip to support my local businesses in Smithville.
Yep.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as a result of the region not being able or having jurisdiction to provide local transit service, should you wish to join NRT On Demand to provide local trips within the municipality, the cost is $250,000 annually for that transit service.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Thank you.
So what you have to understand is that the region is subsidizing that $6. It's a good deal, like Councilor Rayner said, it's a good deal, but there's a subsidy that we are already paying through our regional taxes. And to get that local, our municipality through their taxes would be subsidizing that local portion, the $250,000. So I think you understand kind of, maybe what the commitment of the Niagara region is for West Lincoln on those $6 subsidized trips. Obviously, it's not $6 to have somebody come and do a 1 hour round trip. So I think you're getting a picture. Go ahead, Madam CAO, and then I'm going to go to Councillor Jonker.
Okay, again, just to clarify, so if for those municipalities that have the if you were going to go from your home to your local physiotherapist, Councillor Trombetta, then it would be a $3 trip. So that's one point. And then the other point I want to raise is if when you move, if the region does get a triple majority and a commission is formed, as West Lincoln needs additional service, then we'll be talking to the commission, and then the funding for that will be on the regional tax base. So our residents will be paying for that service, not on our local tax base as they would right now. It'll be shifted over to the regional tax base. Is that correct, Matt? My interpretation? Because I've asked him 50 times this
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. Okay, and Councillor Jonker, go ahead, sir.
I think you're muted.
Councillor Jonker. Okay, I think he
He's
might have
frozen.
froze. Looks like he's froze.
He's
All right,
very-
any other comments, questions?
Actually, sorry.
Oh, there he is. Councillor Jonker, you had your hand raised. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, basically my internet just acted up right at the perfect time there, but quickly got me back in. I think what we're forgetting is we had this discussion with the first presentation, and some of the points there were that if we wanted to buy in, we had to pay $250,000. We don't have that kind of money here in West Lincoln, so we couldn't afford to opt in to subsidize this transit system. And the other municipalities already had a system that they were trying to put in place. So they already had money set aside as a budget, transit budget, and they could put that money into that $250,000. And that's where we don't have that, and Waynfleet doesn't have that. And I think it's a pretty simple thing. We're basically just doing what we did last time. We're just taking this for information, waiting to hear back for feedback from this meeting. Is going to go back to these people, and then we'll see where it goes from there. And sometime in the future, we can decide that we're going to subsidize transportation here. That's what we do. But there's nothing here saying that we're subsidizing anything as a municipal of West Lincoln yet. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Jonker.
Breaking up again.
All right, so we have a resolution before us. Oh, Madam CAO.
So again, just to reiterate that the issue of that $250,000 is not on a discussion tonight. This is not the issue. That would be dealt with in the future, and it could be more economies of scale as you move forward, as if you're part of a commission. So that's not the issue right now. If you join, or if you contemplate in the fall going to a triple majority or participating in that, then we're going to be becoming part of a commission. Tonight you're voting on whether or not you're receiving this information, and then I'll continue to represent the municipality in terms of those other points that are raised, but most of that work is sort of being done at this point in time.
Okay. All right. Councilors, are we clear? Any more questions? All right, good. Then the motion, Councilor Gannon moved. I'm going to ask for a recorded vote, so I'm going to go to the clerk now to take up the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, on my screen, I just have a random list, so I will start with Councillor Riley.
Support.
Councillor Bradrick,
Support.
Councillor Rayner,
Support.
Councillor Trombetta,
Do not support.
Councillor Jonker,
Support.
Councillor Gannon,
Support.
Mayor Balsma.
Support.
Thank you. The vote is 6-1 carried.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. So that concludes our discussion on transit for this at this point. So I'm going to move on to regional council remarks. I'm going to call upon Regional Councillor Albert Witteveen to make his comments for this month. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council and members of the public. Being it's a long meeting, I'm going to keep my remarks short and sweet so we can be completed. So just a few updates on some local issues. One, obviously, the relocation of Highway 20 from South Grimsby Road 5 to Wades Road, and specifically the crosswalk. I've been working with the region and following up with this as they come up with a design on that. So if I see that there's, obviously with the new with the farmers market in town, that's been a concern. So just a suggestion, maybe if that's an issue for the Friday of the farmers market, maybe we can ask if somebody wants to volunteer to be a crossing guard for that nation, just to maybe Councillor Riley would like to be a crossing guard and to help go get across that road safely. So while we work on that project. And again, just following up with concerns that Councillor Broderick and Councillor Ganana brought forward on childcare here needs in Niagara. As people inquire, I've been, I guess, sending those inquiries to the region staff so that they can respond to our residents on the progress, and I am following that through on public health. So it's good when the residents do bring those concerns forward. It just reinforces what the councillors are working on, and that it is a larger concern of the community that we're supporting. And last, it's been I met our new market manager before the market because, as many of you know, I was kind of looking after the Smithville Farmers Market in the past, and so of course we accumulated a trailer and tents and many other things. So I contacted Bev, and Bev let Michelle know that I had them. So I sat down with Michelle and I did the official handoff. Some of you might have seen the old trailer at the market. So I was glad to do that. And if many of you know that I also I kind of, I guess, coach Michelle into initiating the Grimsby market. So I was glad to see that, and I'm sure councillors will expand. I'm sorry I didn't have a chance Friday. I worked late to select the market, so I'll let those other councillors give a more, I guess, a more detail of that event. So just want to thank her and members of council and public for the opportunity again to share the work that I'm doing on behalf of the region for the Township of Westlink.
Thank you, Councillor Witteveen. Any comments for the councillor? Councillor Riley, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Councillor Witteveen. Yeah, thank you for volunteering me for that opportunity there. I appreciate that, man. We could do a rotational thing and you can have the next week. I guess I just wanted to mention that I appreciate the feedback on the crosswalk. It is certainly very important to many members of our community. I know there's been, even from what we've seen on social media to those who've reached out to us on a personal one-on-one basis, I know there's, just some confusion to why that wasn't kind of created at the same time as the road stuff. And we understand that these things just kind of happen. It's, budgetary wise. But it's great to hear that, you're representing us and you're getting this, going sooner than later. Even just having a voice there advocating for this, sometimes these can also get pushed off for a year or two. And I think, from last you and I chatted, I believe the expectation is hopefully still on track to have that installed by fall time or just before winter time. And I know it's going to be much, very much appreciated and long overdue. And so I just wanted to thank you for being a voice for that and being so prompt and getting that information, not just back to myself, but also to our constituents. And and I think that's about it, other than I'll talk to them, I guess, the farmer's market later. But you certainly missed a beautiful day for it, but it was, it was a success by all means. So anyways, that's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments for our regional councillor? Again, thank you, sir, for bringing us the update. At this time, we're going to do confirmation of minutes. The council meeting, June 28. Councillor Rayner, you have the resolution for that one.
Yes, I do. I have to find it. It's buried in all my paperwork. 1 second. Okay. Moved by myself that the minutes of open session portion of June 28th, 2021 regular council meeting be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the June 28th, 2021 regular council meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with exemptions provided section 239 of the Municipal Act.
Thank you, sir. And can I get a seconder, please? I have Councillor Gannon. Thank you. And any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to council minutes special, July 19. Councillor Jonker, you have that resolution?
Yes, move by myself that the minutes of the open session portion of the July 19th, 2021 special council meeting be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the July 19th, 2021 special council meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in section 239 of the Municipal Act.
Thank you, sir. And can I get a seconder for that? Councillor Rayner, thank you. And any comments or questions regarding those minutes? Councillor Riley, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't be voting on this because I was unable to attend that meeting with my personal matters. So I just wanted to note that I will not be participating in the vote.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that clarification. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. This time there are no communications, and so at this I will enter a few comments into the record from Mayor's remarks. First thing that I wanted to acknowledge or bring to your attention was an announcement made by the province. I was invited to a photo op, an announcement that was made in Grimsby at the site of the high school that they're building. It was an announcement for funding for $6.8 million for the theater and for the high school. So that was the Minister of Education, Mr. Lecce, was on site to make that announcement, as was our own MPP, Sam Oosterhoff, as well as mayors and regional councillors from the 3 municipalities of West Niagara. So that was it was a hot day, but a good day, a good announcement nonetheless. Later in that day, on July the 15th, I was invited to by the chair of the region, as well as the other 12 mayors of the local area municipalities, to enter a discourse and a discussion with local business partners, business strategists, with respect to the recovery of coming out of COVID-19 and the pandemic as we move through the various levels to more openness. Things that it was a frank discussion. It was very casual. So I participated in that Zoom call. It was very informative. The members around that on that call agreed that it was a productive event. It allowed for some venting, mostly for the mayors and the regional chair to hear some of the concerns of the business community and provide some comments to that end. The last thing that I wanted to kind of in a muted sort of way acknowledge was the farmers market. Again, I too was on vacation, so I could not attend. The weather looked absolutely spectacular from pictures that I saw. And again, kudos to staff and Michelle for their hard work. And I thank you, Councillor Witteveen, for lending your hand to its success as well. And we look forward to building upon that initial success. So I'm going to leave it at that because there were some members on council that were present that can provide an eyewitness account of the day, and I do hope to attend many of the future ones starting with this Friday. So I'll leave it at that as my remarks to council. At this time, there are no reports of committee, and the definition for reconsideration and motion to rescind are there. So we move on to consent agenda items. All items listed below are to be considered routine and non-controversial and can be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests it, in which case the item will be removed from the consent resolution and considered immediately following the adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. Councillor Riley, you have a resolution.
I do, Mr. Mayor. That council hereby approves the following consent items. Items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 be and are hereby received for information. And items.
Your number 7, you missed number 7.
Oh, thank you. All right, I'll read that again. Items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 be and are hereby received for information, and items 8, 9, 10, and 11 be and are hereby received, and that the recommendations contained therein be adopted with the exceptions of items, and there's currently none.
Are there any items that any members wish to pull? Seeing none, then we'll deal with this as a whole. There's no discussion.
So we need a second.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, we do need a seconder. Councillor Ganan, thank you very much for rescuing me there in that moment. So at this time, all those in favor of consent agenda items? And that is carried in its entirety. I think that's kind of a novel thing that we've very rarely accomplished before, but thank you very much. And so moving on to item 16.2, I have Madam CAO Bev Hendry to address the matter of an employee professional accomplishment. Madam CAO.
Yes, I thank you very much. And I know I've mentioned this every single time I get an opportunity to talk about this. I'm always very, very, very pleased and delighted to be able to inform council of the good work of our staff. And I'm particularly happy today because the person is actually on in the meeting today. And so to Garrett Borma, Planner 2, congratulations on getting your master's in environmental science in planning at the University of Waterloo. It's a great achievement.
That's a big accomplishment, a master's. Very good, sir. I don't know if you want to make a comment because we don't always, yes.
Nope, that's it. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank
you, Garrett.
His parents weren't.
Yeah.
But you bet. Proud parents as well, Garrett. Congratulations.
Yeah. Councilor Rayner, you wanted to get in there?
Yeah, thank you. Garrett, you continue to amaze me. I am shocked in a very, very surprised, positive way. This is phenomenal to get a master's degree in this. You're married, you're working, all the pressures that normally aren't there when you're going through university. You've done it really the hard way, and it's, I haven't got words to describe. I am so impressed with this. I love people who go to university. I love those who continue to climb, but those who do it a little bit on the hard way, I'm even more amazed. And like I said, I haven't got words. You deserve all the kudos in the world. Congratulations. And I'm sure it will serve you well throughout your working career. Congratulations. Well done.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Trombetta. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations, Garrett. You know, coming from my household when my wife just went back to university and then went through teachers college, and the stress she put on me. But this, you know, to see you come to every meeting, and anytime we picked up the phone and you just kept on an even keel, like, it's a good accomplishment. And getting your master's is a huge accomplishment. So congratulations on that. So, you know, good job.
I think in there was a veiled congratulations to your wife for enduring this with you. So.
Well, and additionally, he also has become a father.
Become a
So in the
father.
middle of all of this, he's taken on a lot of duties.
Yeah,
so
the kids
well
don't
done.
remember. The wife does.
So that's you're absolutely right, Mr. Mayor. We should congratulate his wife too for, you know, getting through everything as well. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Madam
Thank
CAO, for bringing that up. Yeah. And so then moving on, we have the recommendation for the fire department's update, purchase of a new tanker apparatus. Councillor Trombetta, you have that resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself that report WLFD 13/2021 regarding purchase of new tanker apparatus dated July 26, 2021 be accepted, and that the staff be authorized to proceed with the purchase of a 2022 tanker from the Safe Tech at a cost of $444,000 and $444,090 plus HST. I think that's it, right, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so you were going to end on that HST and HST.
HST, yeah. Sorry, it's just the way it's worded here.
Yeah,
Yep.
no problem. I get it. And can I get a seconder for that? Councillor Rayner, thank you very much. We do have the chief on the line, so if you'll have a question, I'm sure the chief will be delighted to answer your questions. Councillor Rayner, go ahead, sir.
Yes, through to the chief. We got a tanker a while ago at another council that I attended years ago. When was the last time we got a new tanker? And I believe it was for Station 2, was it not?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Rayner. It was in 2011. We bought a 1997.
Yep, there you go.
As council of the day, they chose to not entertain buying new.
Okay.
Were we given a choice on this one? Like maybe they were given, I can't remember back 10 years ago, but we must have been given a choice.
Yes, you were. In 2011, you were given a choice.
And this time you decided to take that option out.
Correct.
Okay, one other question. Actually, two parts to this. Is that 440,000 Canadian? Is this an American truck or is it built in Canada?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Riley, Councillor Rayner. No, it'll be made in New Brunswick. It is a Canadian truck. The only thing US will be the cabin chassis.
Oh, so it is part US.
Correct. But
But you
the
have
rest
to-
of it will be built and put together in New Brunswick.
Okay, because this is new and this is so expensive, does it come with a full load of water with it?
Sure.
Okay, we got to get something out of this.
880. And if you're looking for a volunteer to drive it from New Brunswick, I'll make sure my license up to snuff and take that back for you. But I on the condition, I'll do it for free, but I get to put the lights on. Councillor Rayner or Councillor Riley, go ahead, sir.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Councillor Rayner, actually. Were you on council in 2011? Were you?
Actually, I wasn't.
No, you weren't, were you? Because I think
No, I
I've
wasn't.
heard you talk about the YMCA a couple of times, and I think that was the term that they were supposed to start that. So,
Then they didn't do it.
well, let's not get distracted.
They only
But
started-
I just wanted to focus on whether or not you were on council. So,
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's true.
Councillor, who is that? Councillor Junker? You put your finger up, or are you adjusting your screen? Go ahead, John.
I was actually going to say I was going to drive it for free. I don't even have to go bump up my license for it. But yeah, just on a side note too, actually, it's all trucks purchases come through the US figures, but they're not made in the US. So, but it's good that it's being assembled and put together in New Brunswick. So
good.
But
all right then. On the truck purchase, anyone wishing to get any other comments in? Then I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Anybody need a break? We're going to press on. We're moving. We're good. Okay, good. Just want to make sure. Councillor, recommendation report from the Director of Finance. Councillor Bradrick, you have a resolution.
Yes, thank you, sir. Moved by myself, Councillor Shelley Broderick, that report T-20-2021 regarding 2020 accumulated operating surplus dated July 26, 2021 be received, and that council authorizes the transfer of $150,000 of the 2020 accumulated operating surplus to be used as revenue in the 2022 budget, and that council approve budget amendment BA 2021-08, which authorizes the following reserve transfers: $500,000 to fire reserve, $50,000 to the bridge reserve, $125,000 to the contingency reserve, $110,500 to the winter control reserve, and $83,500 to the capital reserve.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I get a seconder for that? Councillor Trombetta, go ahead. Any comments or questions? Okay, great. I see none, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Councillor Ganan, you have the next resolution for item 16.5, or yeah, go ahead, Councillor.
Did you want to say something else?
No, I couldn't get myself out of my thought.
Okay, so moved by myself that report T-21-2021 regarding the 2022 budget process and schedule dated July 26, 2021 be received, and two, that the preliminary draft 2022 operating and capital budgets and 10-year capital plans be presented at the Administration, Finance, Fire Committee meeting scheduled for Monday, January 17th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. And three, that a public budget open house be held on Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022 at 7 p.m. And four, that the draft 2022 operating and capital budgets be presented at the Administration, Finance, Fire Committee meeting scheduled for Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. with an additional date set for further deliberation if required for Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. And five, that the budget ratification take place at the council meeting scheduled for Monday, February 28th, 2022.
Thank you, Councillor. And can I get a seconder? Councillor Jonker, thank you very much. And any comments or questions? All right, I see none. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And thank you very much. That is carried. Moving on, Councillor Jonker, you have the resolution for the next one, 16.6. Go ahead, sir.
Moved by myself that report PD-78-2021 regarding recommendation report housekeeping amendments number 4 to zoning bylaw 2017-70 be amended as amended, file number 2100-009-21 dated July 26, 2021 be received, and that section 34:17 in brackets of the Planning Act apply, and that no further public meeting is required, and that an application for zoning bylaw amendment 1601-009-21 submitted by the Township of West Lincoln and a corresponding bylaw be approved and passed, and that staff be authorized to circulate the notice of decision for the zoning bylaw amendment with the corresponding 20-day appeal period.
Great, thank you. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Riley. I'm going to go to Councillor, Director 2, planning to Mr. Boerma, who will give us, I think that there's some correspondence that's tied to this. Go ahead, sir. And any other comments that you wish to make.
Thank you. Through you to the rest of committee and council, we've received 2 further pieces of communication today that I wish to quickly read into the record regarding this recommendation report. The one is regarding, or both of them are regarding this report and the recommendations therein. The first comment that was emailed to us was sent in by Mr. Harvey Pott, who lives on who lives at 5220 Regional Road 20, but also has a piece of land with frontage on Vaughan Road. Currently that has commercial C3 on it, and we have recommended that it go back to agricultural. So the comment says, regarding the C3 on our property, we would like to keep it commercial. We have something in mind for the property, regards Harvey Pott. And the second piece of communication is regarding the same report, dealing with 543216 Road, being the former St. Anne's Food. And this is a lawyer acting on behalf of, or that previously was acting on behalf of the owners. And in this email, the lawyer says that he has reviewed the report to council, and staff have confirmed with him, notwithstanding the region's comments, township staff are still recommending the passing of the bylaw to permit the abattoir use for 543216 Road. The township's position is that the MOECP issues are independent of the zoning and should not be a condition of the abattoir use for this property. We agree with the township's position. And that concludes that comment as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Boerma. And I don't know if there's any other comments or questions that anyone else wants to make at this time. Any comments or questions? Anyone? Then I'm going to just ask one quickly. It sounds like the second comment has no problem with us passing this. The first one, with respect to the Harvey Pott concern, is that a concern for us? Do we need to make an amendment or address this? How does that get resolved, Mr. Boerma?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll try to answer this, and if I can't cover everything, Brian knows a bit about this as well. So the property has historically been zoned, or a portion of the property, about I think 9 acres that front onto Vaughan Road, and currently contain a chicken barn and some field cropped area, has been zoned commercial C3 since the original zoning bylaw in 1979, I believe. We're not sure why it was ever zoned commercial C3. To our knowledge, there's never been a commercial use on the property. And this was not known to the owner, Mr. Pott, either, until we sent him the notice that we were seeking to align this zoning to the designation, the agricultural designation in our official plan. So from a staff's perspective, we believe that's still appropriate at this time to put the zoning back to an agricultural land use, due to the fact that there is no commercial use and on the property, and there was no plans at the time when we circulated the notice to this individual. There was no plans to have a commercial use on the property. And as I mentioned, they were not aware that there was a commercial use on the property. And further, this is a predominantly agricultural area with other poultry barns in the vicinity and a lot of agricultural lands, and leaving it commercial C3 could have negative impacts on the agricultural uses on the subject property, but also potentially surrounding properties.
I think there's one councilor who would agree with that assessment. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Okay, Director of Planning, Brian Treble, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just really briefly to add to Garrett's comments. The area that's actually zoned C3 on Vaughan Road has a chicken barn in the middle of it right now. So it it doesn't even suit his own needs to do that. We've got an incompatibility issue right away. And I guess my other thought is, although we have no details for his new venture, if it truly is an agricultural business or a business serving the agricultural community, and given that Mr. Pott lives on Highway 20, I think a Highway 20 location is probably more attractive anyway. So we will work with Mr. Pott, but I don't think this bylaw needs to be held back because of his letter.
Okay, thank you. That satisfies my question. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, then I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And any opposed? Okay, and that's carried. Thank you. I didn't think I saw all the hands at the same time, so I was just confirming. So anyways, moving on, we have a resolution by Councillor Rayner next, 16.7.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself that report PD 80-2021 regarding technical report number 2, Mars Homes, Smithville West, Inc., Thrive draft plan subdivision and rezoning, file number 2000-90-20 dated July 26, 2021 be received, and that staff prepare a recommendation report for presentation at a future planning, building, environmental committee meeting once all comments have been adequately addressed and the additional environmental reports have been received by the agencies.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Can I get a seconder for that? Councillor Ganand, thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, then I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? And that's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Moving on, I have Councillor Riley with the next resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just let me scroll. All right, moved by myself that report PD 81-2021 regarding housekeeping amendments number 5 to zoning bylaw 2017-70 as amended introduction of new housing types dated July 26, 2021 be received, and that proper notice be given and a public meeting held as required by the Planning Act at a future Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I get a seconder, please? And Councillor Ganand, thank you very much. And any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Bradrick. Oh, did I?
You were frozen and I was trying to be the seconder. I had nothing to say.
Okay, all right. Any other comments or questions? All right, then I'm going to call the questioner. Questions, all those in favor? And opposed? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Moving on, I have one by Councillor Trombetta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, the report PD 86-2021 regarding the recommendation report Garden Suites official plan policy amendment dated July 26, 2021 be received, and that staff be hereby authorized to commence a public meeting to set the Garden Suites temporary use bylaw limitation period for 20 years in accordance with the provincial policy.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Rayner is seconding, and you would like to speak to it, sir?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Fine, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Oh.
Our director wanted to speak.
Director wanted to speak.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, you're on a roll. I don't want to really interrupt, but I just wanted to point out this came up at the public meeting for the merit application for the garden suite, where our policy talks about 10 years, but provincial policy talks about 20 years. So we're going to try and do an alignment so that the policy is 20 years before we approve the merit application. To do that will mean a recommendation report following a public meeting, but this one should be a straightforward slam dunk, knock on wood. So I'm hoping we can pull that off in September. But just for the record as well, we're not the only municipality that has this discrepancy. There's discrepancies probably in everybody's official plan, but ironically, on July the 5th, the town of Lincoln Director of Planning was speaking about this very same matter with respect to the town of Lincoln official plans. So it's a common theme right now, and as I think it was mentioned by a couple of councillors, this is an important piece of the housing assessment piece that's worth trying to accommodate. So we're trying to speed this one up if we can, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. With that comment, are there any others? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And any opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Moving right along, we have Councillor Gannon has the next resolution.
Oh, Councillor Gannon, you're muted.
Sorry, I thought that Councillor Bradwick had one.
Yeah, on my end, it's showing Shelley or Councillor Bradrick.
I think you
Yes.
skipped one, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sorry, I checked the wrong one. Yep, I flipped the page too soon. Councillor Bradrick, 1610, item 1610. Go ahead, Councillor Bradrick.
My feelings are not hurt. Moved by myself, Councillor Shelley Bradrick, that report PD-087-21 regarding revised site drawing submission guideline dated July 26, 2021 be received for information.
Great, thank you. And can I get a seconder, please? And Councillor Trombetta, thank you. Any comments or questions? I see none, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor, please indicate. And any opposed? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Now we go to Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm ready. So moved by myself that report PD-79-2021 regarding recommendation report site plan approval authorization, Clifford Street Business Park, Inc., file number 2100-010-21 dated July 26, 2021 be received, and 2, that a bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign a site plan agreement with Clifford Street Business Park and any mortgagees once all the plan details are completed to the satisfaction of the planning department.
And thank you very much. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Jonker, thank you. And any comments or questions? I see none. Oh, go ahead, Director.
Again, quickly, this is a good news story in the sense that this is a new industry setting up in our industrial park. So just to point that out to all of council, we have a new business moving to town, hoping to be up and running by early in 2022.
Yeah, and it actually is. It's more than that. It's you know, kind of a loosening of some long overdue development of some land in our industrial park. So yeah, double good news. Great. Okay, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Then moving right along, Councillor Jonker, you have the next resolution.
Yes, moved by myself that report PD-92-2021 regarding recommendation report, preliminary report on update of parkland, parkette bylaw and naming of parks, parkettes and trails in Smithville dated July 26, 2021 be received, and that staff be authorized to finalize the parkland bylaw and procedure for the naming of parks, parkettes, and trails in West Lincoln and report back for final approval. And 3, that the following names be assigned to the new unnamed parks, parkettes as follows: A, Stream Side Subdivision, the Catalina Parkette, Dennis Drive be called Old Town Parkette, Harvest Gate, Auburn Trail Parkette, and that staff report back with the final naming procedure and park bylaw at a future meeting.
Thank you. And can I get I'm going to take Councillor Riley as the seconder, and any comments or questions? I see none. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Moving right along, I have 1613 item. Councillor Rayner, you have the resolution for the next one.
Moved by myself that report PD 88/2021 regarding recommendation report Smithville Urban Forest Tree Planting dated July 26, 2021 be received. And two, the council endorse a stewardship agreement with Land Care Niagara to obtain eligible funding from the Forest Ontario 50 Million Trees Program, and that the NPCA's Restoration Grant Program, and that the $2,000 application fee be paid from an account as approved by the Director of Finance. And three, that a bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign a stewardship agreement with Land Care Niagara to plant 0.769 hectares, 1.9 acres of trees on township-owned property north of Anastasio Park, as shown on attachment 3 to this report.
Thank you, Councillor. And I got our seconder, Councillor Riley. Any comments or questions? I see none, so I am going to call the question, but I'm going to just preempt that by just saying I think this is awesome that we were able to move so quickly on something that came. So this is really, really good. So with that, I'm going to ask for the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Great. Moving right along, Councillor Riley, you have the next item on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a recommendation report, PD 93/2021, amendment to sign bylaw 2020-54, delegating the variance process to a committee of adjustment, and two, revising the ground sign and pole sign setback requirements to align with the Niagara region requirements, and three, authorizing an approved site plan agreement to take precedence over the requirement to obtain a variance. So moved by myself that report PD 93/2021 regarding amendment to the sign bylaw 2020-54 dated July 26, 2021 be received, and that the bylaw attached as attachment 1 to this report, which provides council with the authority to delegate the sign bylaw variance process to the committee of adjustment, amend the setback requirements for the pole signs and ground signs, and allow site plan agreements to take precedence over the requirement to apply and obtain local sign bylaw permit be approved. And I think this was the end, that bylaw attached as schedule, attachment 2 to this report be approved to amend bylaw 2018-108, given delegation to the committee of adjustment for approval or denial of the sign variance as per bylaw 2020-54, section 4.9.3 as amended.
Thank you. And can I get a seconder for that? And I see Councillor Gannon first. So at this point, are there any comments or questions? I see none, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. And that concludes kind of this section. So at this time, we're going to members of the council. Do you have any members of the council have any new remarks that have not already been stated? I'm going to go Councillor Riley. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just, obviously, we talked a little bit about it earlier tonight about the farmer's market. So I was able to attend the farmer's market myself with my children, and just want to again thank staff for all the hard work that they put into it, and our coordinator who made it a success. I know the community and the feedback online and just in general was very positive, and everyone's looking forward to seeing this grow. I know we had a couple of vendors that weren't able to show up, I think last minute, but I think the expectation is that this week it's going to be even busier, and we were able to get that word out there, and I think it's really going to bring our community together. And I thought it was what a beautiful day, sir. You were preoccupied with something else, but at the time being, I think the community really benefited from having this finally start. I know this was more of a soft open, but at the same time, it was just a glorious day to have. It was perfect temperature and an excellent way to bring ourselves back together. I did also want to mention a couple little other topics. You mentioned about the theater coming through, or the province coming through with the funding for the theater, and they were, we had, Principal Matt there had made a presentation to council about trying to seek support and how we can help them in funding and stuff like that. I think that's another good story that the province were able to come, and I'm glad to see our municipality didn't have to chip in anything from the tax base wise like Lincoln and Grimsby were committed to. So, when the province came through there, that was nice to see that we're not going to have to worry about having to deliver, bad news to them should they have come back and asked us to do something similar at budget time as well. So that, that money that they're receiving is great news, and certainly one less responsibility our residents don't have to worry about from the municipal side of things. And then lastly, I did want to bring this up because a resident expressed some concern to me today, and I just think, I just thought it's worth noting for the record. But as we go forward and do some of these changing of the sign blades, I'm going to use a street for example. We not too long ago changed Silver Street to Sterling Street, and is kind of brought to my attention actually today that they've had a tremendous amount of issues with receiving their parcels. So anything they've ordered online during the pandemic that they truly required, they don't seem to be receiving it. And I think at some point, I don't know how this works and how we get that stuff corrected through whether it's, the Google Maps or some kind of GPS system, or if there's some kind of international database or national database that we put that stuff into. But it would be nice to kind of see if there is an opportunity down the road. It's not a conversation now, but an opportunity down the road when we do go and change more of our, signs related to PERS, that we somehow, if there's a possibility to take that in consideration of that implication that's going forward, if there's something staff can do, I don't know. And so I just wanted to relay more than anything, just that information of, I think there's other residents that are probably dealing with it as well. And they haven't really come forward, but this was the first it was brought to my attention. I never imagined that myself, I think at the time, and we certainly don't regret renaming the street. It was required and needed, but at the same time, there's like one of those, we think we're fixing one problem, we accidentally created another. And, for however that lasts, I know when looking online and seeing how the rest of the municipalities filling in, even through Google Maps, we have stuff that's at least 4 or 5 years that's out of date, and that's not on us. Again, I really don't know how we deal with that. That's just how those organizations run and how often they update it. Obviously isn't frequent. So I just really wanted to put that out in the universe there, and hopefully, when we have our next one come forward, maybe we might have an answer to that. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Ganan, go ahead.
Okay, so I just have a couple of things too. The market was awesome. It was a small start. It was so great to see it start. And kudos to all who were involved, especially to our CAO, who was very involved in securing that red grant. So it was just so exciting to see it back, and people, that was the general comment. They didn't really care, that some vendors were missing. They just were happy to be out and to see people and to visit, and it was great. I do want to point out that the Chamber of Commerce is proceeding with business awards. And so to members of council, if you help spread the word, if people know of a business that they feel has been really successful in the past year, or we have a new resilience award, if you know of a business that have had to really pivot and change things, the deadline is the end of the summer. The nominations have to be in by the 1st of September. And so the committee is meeting regularly and pulling that together. And we have been calling businesses, but we would appreciate any help of encouragement from anybody to either nominate or suggest that businesses that you're aware of self-nominate. They know best what they've had to deal with throughout the pandemic. And the third thing, I know this has been a long meeting, but I just wanted to talk about the fact that Councillor Riley and I, and probably some of the rest of the councillors, have been getting numerous phone calls about the need for traffic calming measures. And I just want to make sure that we've openly kind of discussed that. We generally encourage people to, go back through the director or to, call the road department if there's something specific. But the bottom line is we have had more emails and more phone calls about the speed of traffic, some of it police related and lack of controls that way, and some of it just the fact that that people are just generally driving too fast everywhere. So we know with the sign campaign that we initiated this summer that we're not going to change people who are intending to speed, but we've already had some feedback that say that people who are just sort of accidentally traveling with the speed of the traffic will actually check their speed, and visibly they see them slow down. So I just think that as a municipality, I know we've tried to do things in the past. Other municipalities, maybe it's because of size, seem to be finding ways for speed bumps and things. The man who called today was very upset, as are all his neighbors. He sort of made his call on behalf of that whole Streamside area and Regional Road 6 in particular, with the speed there. And so I just thought, I need to bring it tonight so that we don't forget about the fact that that is a major concern in our municipality right now. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, you can. All right.
I'm going to add something that Councillor Ganan had said. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to create, and I won't draw this out. But yeah, like Councilor Ganan's not exaggerating by any means. Like we're getting inundated with, concerned residents. I did want to mention that I've noticed even with the NRP, at least, the district close to us, District 8, they are getting more proactive, even with like seeing them a little bit more in the area. The other day, they had some photos of themselves on doing a bike patrol in the urban area. And so they're trying to look for ways, because they understand that, the matter we're dealing with, and it partly sparked, even with our little sign campaign, just help bring people back to awareness, especially that, that average person who doesn't mean to speed. They just kind of, their thoughts are with them, or their, that tunnel vision or whatever the matter is really just a matter of just being able to get them to kind of like, oh, right, and bring them back to speed. But for the biggest part of our issue is those who never stop at a stop sign to begin with. And so that's always going to need that extra police enforcement. And I did want to note that we have seen a little bit more of faces within our community, the police presence, in our community. It's certainly not where we need it to be, but I thought it was still worth noting that they are recognizing our situation, and I'm sure they're in communication with our staff, as well as maybe you, Mr. Mayor, in terms of what they can do. But we really need to keep that microphone as loud as possible, because I'm really concerned we're going to have another situation that we had was it in June, where that young lad got hit, and I don't want to see that again ever. So we certainly need to do better, and I believe we can. So,
all right, any other comments? Councilor Bradrick, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Just briefly, Councillor John Kerr and myself had the opportunity. We were invited for lunch about a week and a half ago to the Robert Land Academy out here in our ward. The headmaster, Ryan Smith, invited us for lunch, gave us a tour, kind of orientated us on their facility, as well as their pressing home to us the $6 million contribution that they make to our local economic structure. Just a few little housekeeping items that they wanted to support with from particularly our building and roads department. So just looking after that. And if you ever have the chance to drive by there on South Chippewa Road, it's a lovely facility, and they're looking for ways to enhance their operations and being a little bit more connected to the community. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I know the experience, so I have fond memories of the lunch that I had there. And if you have the opportunity, please take them up on their lunch. Go ahead, Councillor Jonker.
Yeah, I was just that's what I was gonna mention, as well as what, yeah, really surprised, 70 staff. And they started a summer camp this year that they're trying out and hopefully can expand on. And I think getting children out to socialize in a different atmosphere is a great thing, and quite the facility there. So hats off to the staff there and what they do. And also, I was just going to mention, as liaison as West Lincoln Township to the chamber, that we're looking for nominations, and I was beaten on that, so that's good. So been a beautiful summer.
Thank you, Councillor Jonker. Councillor Trombetta.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Also, I had a chance to attend the grand opening of the Coop and Scoop.
Yeah.
Not too many businesses really opened up in Ward 1, but this is actually a good news story because it's for ice cream. I had a chance to attend, and I know Councillor Ganan was there at one point, and Councillor Riley and Councillor Rayner. It's a nice little treat. They also have some selling of some chicken that they also have. So if you have a chance to get out, still make up some of those hot days that we're still having, to go get some ice cream. So just wanted to make
that was a neat plug. Yeah, absolutely, because we know where it is, but it's a little bit off the beaten path. So we have to, beat the path larger. So good. Thank you for that. And Councillor Rayner, go ahead, sir.
Yes, following up to Councillor Trombetta, I took my son and daughter-in-law, my two little grandsons down there, and they went down to the creek at the back and seen all the frogs and the fish and everything like that, which was really neat, because I used to go there all the time. Mrs. Packham used to make the best pies, and it was from the orchard right next door. It was as fresh as you could possibly get. And I used to go there all the time. And I always wondered, Because at the back, it's almost like a beaver dam there that flows over. You can see it from the road. And I always want to know what it was like. So now we had a chance to walk back there. It was really neat.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really
Frogs
nice.
go on ice cream, do they?
What's that?
Did frogs go well on ice cream, eh? Good. Live like a kid in the country. All right.
Well, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm sorry to do this again. I didn't realize how much we actually did this month. And so I did want to mention one more thing. I actually, just the other week there, I got a chance to get a personal tour with the executive director of the Cairn School there in town. And they just kind of sharing some of the vision that they have for our community and growing with our community as well. So I thought that was just worth noting, and it kind of message just out of the blue. I think they also reached out to Councillor Ganan. They're going to set something up with her. And I think Councillor Whitavine even in the not too distant future, just from the conversation there I had with Kevin. And yeah, so a lot of exciting things happening in our community here. And
There is.
Very happy to see the direction we're going in. So
great. So yeah, to that end, there's more exciting things actually already in the works, but we can't speak of them just yet, I'm sure. But with that, Councillor or Madam CAO, go ahead.
Thank you. As I was thinking about the summer and how busy it was, AMO is coming up, and I think you've been advised that we've secured 3 of the delegations, one being with Minister of Transportation Caroline Mulrooney regarding the North-South crossing, and the tactic this time is the fact that the crossing is not part of the 50-year transportation plan, and we want to make sure that that gets onto there. We've also have a delegation with the Attorney General, and that's on a topic that is a little bit new, actually old, but new again. It's the joint and several liability, where the insurance is coming and quite often onto the pockets of municipalities. And we were, it was an issue that was going to be tidied up a couple of years ago, and we're encouraging them to get back on track with that. And then the third one is meeting with the Minister of Health, Christina Elliott, to talk about the hospital once again. And
Great.
The last one we haven't heard about, though, is navigable waters with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. So we'll be following up on that one.
Great. Thank you, Madam CAO. So with that, we've all had a go around at this. I'm going to move forward and go to bylaws. Councillor Trombetta, you can close this. Bring us home.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a long one tonight for a summer meeting, huh?
Yeah.
That's okay. Moved by myself that leave be granted to introduce bylaws number 2021-66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, and that the same shall be considered to have been read a first, second, and third time with one reading and hereby adopted, and that the mayor and clerk and are hereby authorized to sign the affix of the corporate seal thereto, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I get, and I got a seconder from Councillor Jonker. Any comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna ask that we pull 18.1, because I'm not gonna vote on that because I was not there for that meeting, I believe. Hold on. So I don't know if we have to split that in two, because I was there for the 28th, but I wasn't there for the 19th.
Madam Clerk, I don't know if you understood that. Is that actually a concern? You know what? Let's just carry on. We'll
I would say that because the minutes were there, that all the information was in the minutes, but
Because I didn't vote on the second part, but I would have voted on the 28th.
on the 28th.
So the minutes would have been separate. So you've just lumped the minutes together, but technically I wasn't at the 19th, so I don't know if I should be voting on that in any capacity. So does it make sense to split it up, or am I just over analyzing this?
I believe that you maybe just over analyzing it a bit, Mr.
Okay.
Riley, Councillor Riley.
Want to make sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I appreciate that. That's not a problem. I'm just saying that the minutes were there, and you were privileged to see those minutes, and I think that you can make your decision based on those.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and thank you for that clarity. There's no harm, no foul, no harm in asking. Okay, so then on all the bylaws, I did get a seconder, correct?
Yes, Councillor Jonker.
Okay, yeah, good. I just wanted to make sure. Then I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Being no further business, there's no confidential matter, so I'd like to declare this meeting adjourned at the hour of 9:24. Yep, all right.
Good night, everybody.
Everyone have a
great summer
great continuation of summer.
and be safe.
Yep.
Good night.
Have a nice summer.
Good night.
Good night.